Chapter 212. Lan Hua's sorcery was quite reliable. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the Emperor Ascension stage. The entire Emperor Ascension stage was covered in red light. The light shot up into the sky, blinding. Xi and Han stood in the middle of the array, controlling it. Zichun and Hui Ling stood on the other side, looking like they were protecting him. I didn't expect your primordial spirits to escape. How dare you come back to die? Xi and Han noticed them immediately. He recognized the new identities of the celestial emperors and snorted. He looked at them condescendingly. When he saw Shining, his eyes widened. It's you. A look of panic flashed across his face. Then, as if remembering something, he calmed down. The array has been activated. There's nothing you can do, no matter how strong you are. Little Biao, stand guard here. I'm going to save them. I Ching did not want to listen to his nonsense. He summoned his immortal sword and charged forward. Lan Hua flew forward at the same time. He was just about to rush towards the people sitting cross-legged around the array. Suddenly, a golden light flashed within the array. Before the two of them could touch the array, they were thrown out by the light. I Ching was fine. He was only forced back a few steps. Lan Hua's sleeves suddenly burst into white flames. He hurriedly tore off half of his dermic robe to prevent the flames from burning him. But the demonic qi that he had just gathered was instantly dispersed. Lan Hua was shocked. This array could cleanse demonic qi. I didn't expect that the celestial emperors would work together with the demons one day. Xi and Han glanced at Lan Hua and laughed coldly. His face was full of glee. It's a pity that the Emperor Ascension stage was set up by the divine race. A demon wants to shake the divine race's heavenly pillar? What a joke. If immortal qi was the nemesis of demonic qi, then divine power was a great poison to demons. This Emperor Ascension stage was set up by the divine race. Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, don't be rash. Chu Xian reminded him worriedly. Lan Hua's expression darkened. He had no choice but to retract the demonic qi around him. I'll do it. I Ching gestured for him to step back. He activated the immortal qi in his body. Sword qi exploded, forming a huge golden sword that slashed towards the light pillar. It's useless. Xi and Han was not the least bit worried. You can't break through the Emperor Ascension stage. With a loud bang, the sword intent that I Ching had used all his strength to attack struck the red pillar of light heavily. The Emperor Ascension stage shook a little, but it did not seem to be damaged at all. There was really no way to break into it. The entire Emperor Ascension stage seemed to be encircled by a red barrier. There was no way to break through it. Since you want to bring more people to die, I'll grant your wish. Xi and Han's eyes hardened. He conjured a seal with both hands. Spirit manipulation art. Chen Gu exclaimed as he recognized the technique in his hand. The expressions of the other radishes instantly darkened, and they couldn't help but curse. Despicable. He actually wanted to control their bodies to attack them. The moment Xi and Han cast his spell, everyone in the array suddenly stood up. As if they had received some sort of command, they charged towards I Ching in midair. Young lordie, be careful. Biaoting shouted. I Ching had no choice but to give up on attacking the light pillar. He turned to defend himself, and fought with 4 or 5 figures. Although Xi and Han was only controlling their bodies, they were all celestial emperors, except Lo Moon and Sun Shu. What's more, their primordial spirits were not in their bodies. All they knew was to attack. Biaoting's situation was even worse. On one hand, he had to protect the weak radishes. On the other hand, he had to fend off the crowd. He could not kill them, because their bodies belonged to him. Everyone could only defend themselves. If the array was not broken, they would not be able to return to their bodies. Xi and Han laughed coldly. He looked at the few of them, who were trying their best to defend themselves. His eyes were cold. You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. I told you, no one can break through this array. Well, before he could finish speaking, he felt someone tap his shoulder. A familiar voice rang in his ear. You seem to have forgotten about me. Xi and Han jumped and spun around, as if he had seen a ghost. You, why are you here? Impossible. This was a divine array. How could she enter after activating it? How did you get in? I jumped in. Shening pointed at the Dharma artifact that the radishes were standing on. There was no path in between them. She could only jump. No. Impossible. Who are you? Xi and Han's eyes bulged in disbelief. Enough, enough, enough. I haven't had dinner yet. Shenning reached out to grab him. Xi and Han seemed to recall something. His face drained of all color. He wondered if extreme fear could really stimulate one's potential. No. He yelled and used all the immortal chi in his body to retreat. In an instant he used a few spells. Icicles, fire dragons, wind blades, and lightning bolts flew towards Shenning from the Emperor Ascension stage. Although this spell did not affect her at all, Shenning was still dazzled by the sudden appearance of this colorful spell. Her outstretched hand naturally slowed down. Her hand, which was originally going to grab onto his shoulder, sank down, as if it had caught onto something. She reached out to grab it, only to hear a swishing sound. Looking down, she saw that there was a strip of cloth in her hand. It was as wide as a palm and embroidered with auspicious clouds. Her mind buzzed. Could this be a belt? She turned to look. Indeed, 3 steps away, a pair of white pants lay on the ground. Xi and Han was bare-legged, standing about 10 feet away, still in a state of shock. Shenning. Zichen. Huiling. Shenning pursed her lips. If she said she didn't do it on purpose, would anyone believe her? She was just about to return the belt when Father Nio's exasperated voice came from the air. Shenning. What the hell are you doing? Hurry, we can't hold on any longer. On the Dharma artifact outside, the radishes were already surrounded by the bodies controlled by Xi and Han. Biaoting and Lan Hua could not handle them at all. All they could do was shout for help. Shenning paused. She was just about to hand the belt over to the radishes when she turned around and threw it in their direction. The belt was a Dharma robe after all. In an instant it became longer. Like a rope, it wrapped around Father Nio and the others. She took advantage of the situation and pulled them back into the array. Then, she threw the belt in I Ching's direction. For a moment, everyone's bodies that were controlled by the spirit manipulation spell fell to the ground like dumplings. Shenning then threw away the belt in her hand. It's your turn. Xi and Han subconsciously took a step back. Seeing that Shenning was walking towards him, he moved his hand and conjured a seal. Suddenly, a red light flashed under Xinying's feet. An array pattern formed beneath her feet. It was the same array pattern that had trapped everyone on the Emperor Ascension stage. The originally circular formation began to change. The red light once again spread to everyone's feet, including Zichun and Huiling. Han. What are you doing? Zichun realized that something was wrong, but it was too late. He could not move his body. His cultivation level was being sucked into the array. He could only look at the person opposite him in shock. Shenning was stunned. Was this internal strife? Chapter 213. Master, I just finished what you wanted me to do later. Xi and Han's expression was cold. He looked at Zichun, as if he was looking at a dead man. What do you mean? Zichun paled. He snorted, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Don't think I don't know. This array concentrates everyone's cultivation in one place. In other words, even if the gates to the divine realm are opened, only one person can become a god. Isn't Master planning to kill me after everything is done and become a god by himself? You. Zichun was shocked. Guilt flashed across his eyes. Xi and Han. Huiling shouted anxiously. I don't know what he's planning. Why are you doing this to me? I trusted you so much. Little Xian. Xi and Han could not bear to see her like this, but he did not undo the array around her. I like you, but you're his daughter. Instead of hating me in the future, why don't? I'm not his daughter. Huiling panicked. She no longer looked as innocent as before. I've already reincarnated. What happened in my past life has nothing to do with me. That's not important. Don't worry. Once I become a god, I'll find a way to bring you back to life. No. Xi and Han ignored her. He looked at the people who had been pulled back in Shenning, who was standing in the array. His earlier panic disappeared, and he said excitedly, It's been hard on you to send these array cores back, so that I can set up a new array. Then you and these people will open the gates to the divine realm together. You'll use up all your cultivation and die. He conjured a seal with both hands, and reactivated the array. His smile widened. as if victory was already in his grasp. If only not for the fact that he was barefooted. Straight face, how does this ancient divine array feel? He looked elated. No matter how high your cultivation is, you won't be able to get out. Before he could finish his sentence, Shining, who had not felt anything at all, looked down at her feet and took a step forward. Xi and Han, the father and daughter. Everyone. How? How can this be? Xi and Han looked as if he was hallucinating. This is the divine race's array. How could this be impossible? Is it very powerful? Shining tilted her head, a look of confusion flashing across her face. Let me try. As she spoke, she suddenly squatted down, clenched her fist, and punched the ground playfully. There was a cracking sound, and a crack the width of a finger appeared. In the next moment, the entire Emperor Ascension stage started to fall like dominoes. The sound of cracking could be heard. With Shining as the center, cracks started to appear one after another. They spread out in all directions and covered the entire Emperor Ascension stage in no time. The red formation above them collapsed immediately, and the red light was extinguished. Everyone who had lost control of their bodies fell to the ground one after another. Even the pillar of light that had shot straight into the sky transformed into countless specks of red light, before disappearing into thin air. The quality isn't that great either. Shining shook her head. Everyone. No. Xi and Han looked at the spot where the light pillar had disappeared, his face crumbling. Heavenly pillar, realm gate. Impossible. He was clearly just one step away from opening the door to the divine realm and becoming a god. Master, are you all right? The array disappeared. I Ching was the first to fly down from the sky. Just as he was about to land, he saw the cracks on the ground and immediately pulled Shining onto his sword. Shining brushed the dust off her hands. Biaoting also flew down with the radishes. Why did it take so long this time? Lone Moon jumped onto their swords and glared at Shining. Didn't they usually settle it in 1 or 2 minutes? This time it took 5 minutes. You dared to destroy the array for becoming a god. Xi and Han's eyes were bloodshot. He looked as if he had lost his mind. He glared at Shining. You deserve. Uffed. Before he could finish his threat, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked down and saw a hand piercing through his chest. It was Zichen's hand. Ah. Hui Ling was also shocked by Zichen's sudden attack. She screamed, her face pale. But she did not go over to help Xi and Han. You. Good disciple, I forgot to tell you. The Emperor Ascension stage is indeed a heavenly pillar, but it cannot open the door to the divine realm. Seeing Xi and Han's shocked expression, Zichen smiled even wider. Because there is no array on the Emperor Ascension stage. There is a seal. With that, he pulled out Xi and Han's primordial spirit from his body. The thick immortal chi surrounding Zichen disappeared in an instant. A black aura surged. You are. Xi and Han said the last 2 words and then stopped. His face was still full of shock. This is demonic chi, Biaoting exclaimed. He looked at the person who had suddenly transformed. Zichen was a demon. How could this be? He's a sky fiend. Lanhua's eyes widened. Only a sky fiend could disguise his demonic chi as immortal chi. Zichen's demonic chi surged. He turned to face the crowd and said, I have to thank all of you for helping me destroy the Emperor Ascension stage. That's how I broke the seal. With that, he struck the Emperor Ascension stage beneath his feet and extinguished the last trace of red light. With a loud bang, the Emperor Ascension stage shattered into pieces. The next moment, huge amounts of demonic chi rose into the sky, gushing out endlessly. In an instant, the entire heavens beyond heaven was filled with demonic chi. The sky darkened. Get out of here, Lanhua shouted. He led the people who had found their bodies and rushed out of the Emperor Ascension stage. But the demonic chi spread even faster. The radishes stared in shock at the demonic chi in front of them. There was too much. They had never seen so much demonic chi before. It was as if they were in the demonic realm. Everything was dark. They heard Zichen's maniacal laughter. Ha 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 ha. It's been hundreds of thousands of years. I've finally broken the seal. His voice was getting more and more maniacal. What's that? Someone exclaimed. They turned around, and saw a huge amount of demonic chi gathering at the spot where the Emperor Ascension stage used to be. The demonic chi shot up into the sky and seemed to solidify into something. A moment later, a huge object appeared in front of them. It looked familiar. Lonman's nervous heart dropped back into his stomach. The corner of his mouth twitched as he nudged the person next to him. I Ching, am I seeing things? That's right. I suddenly want to go home for dinner. The demonic chi in front of them finally took shape. Everyone finally recognized what it was. Why is it a door? The door to the demonic realm. That's the door to the demonic realm. So this is what he said was sealed in the Emperor Ascension stage. He didn't capture us to become gods. He captured us to break the seal on the demonic realm. The radishes who did not know the truth turned pale. Ha 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 ha. Zichen's laughter became even more maniacal. The seal has been broken. It's time for the demonic realm to unify the three realms. As soon as he finished speaking, they heard a creak. The huge black door slowly opened. More and more demonic chi surged out of the door. A voice that seemed to come from hell swept across the entire sky beyond heavens with a chilling intent. Who has summoned me? Zichen became even more excited. He directly knelt down in front of the half-opened door. Greetings, my king. Could it be that the person behind the door is? Everyone's faces turned even paler. It was as if they did not dare to voice their guess. The door opened wider and wider. Finally, it was wide enough for two people to fit inside. A tall, pitch-black figure appeared behind the door. No one could see his face clearly. However, following his line of sight, a bone-chilling aura pressed down on everyone's primordial spirit. They could not resist at all. If not for the fact that everyone's cultivation level was high, they would have been severely injured. Until that gaze landed on Shining. Hey, little black. She raised her hand in greeting. The person behind the door seemed to freeze. Even the demonic chi around them stopped. Everyone was silent for 2 seconds. The next moment, there was a loud bang. The demonic door that was just wide enough for two people to fit inside was slammed shut by the person behind the door. Shining. Zichen. The radishes who did not know the truth. What was going on? The invincible sect trio and Chunga. Sai, we really should go back for dinner. Chapter 214. Zichen had planned for hundreds of thousands of years, and finally managed to come up with a big move. His companions in the celestial world were all stunned. For a time, the surroundings were abnormally quiet. Even the demonic aura that was still spreading seemed to have frozen, no longer spreading. No one could react to what had happened. 5 minutes later, Shening glanced at the tightly shut gates of the demonic realm in front of her, raised her hand, and knocked on the door. Little Black, open the door. I don't want to. A frightened voice came from behind the door. Come out first, I have something to ask you. No, I don't want to go out anymore. Sob, 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 so scary. Why are you crying? I won't hit you. Really? It's true. Really? Really? It's true. Really, really, really. If you talk any more, I'll slap you right now. As soon as he finished speaking, the door creaked open. It was still that black-robed demon king with a pair of blood-red eyes. The surrounding demon chi was even more shocking. However, compared to the domineering aura he had a moment ago, the current him seemed exceptionally well-behaved. His eyes were slightly misty, and his hands were neatly placed on his knees. Even his shameful figure was shorter than before. Why are you kneeling on the ground? Shening glanced at the person on the ground. The demon king shuddered before replying seriously. Exalted goddess, I feel that kneeling on the ground and looking at you is especially impressive. Shening. Everyone. Why did she suddenly have the urge to light a candle for Zichen? The corner of Shen Ying's mouth twitched. She threw Zichen, whom she had just killed, over to him. Tell me what's going on. The demon king immediately distanced himself from her, and took 2 steps to the side. Exalted goddess, I'm really innocent. I don't know anything. I just sensed that someone was summoning me, so I came over to take a look. I didn't know that the immortal world was behind this door. If he had known, he wouldn't have opened it even if he was beaten to death. You mean? Shen Ying's voice deepened. There are many more doors like this? The demon king's face paled, and cold sweat immediately poured out. But, maybe, Yes. Oh no, he had let it slip. I Ching, who was at the side, immediately reacted, and his heart sank. Indeed, although this door looked exactly the same as the one in Invincible Sect, this was the Emperor Ascension stage. It was obvious that it was not the same door. In other words, there was more than one gate leading from the immortal realm to the demon realm. How many more of these doors are there? I Ching asked. The Demon King gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to reply, Zichun, who was lying on the ground, finally reacted. He had a look of disbelief as he said, "My king, what are you doing?" "As long as you give the order, the demon world's army will unify the 3 realms just around the corner. So why?" "Shut up." The Demon King sent a wave of suppressive might sweeping over, directly pressing him back to the ground. "You little b***tch, you still want to trick me?" How could he still have a demon realm army? The 10 Sky Fiends had long been wiped out, and they were still lying in the demon palace groaning and recuperating from their injuries. "Exalted Goddess, listen to my explanation." The Demon King was on the verge of tears. He looked at Shunning weakly and said, "These were all done by the previous Demon King. It was he who wanted to unify the 3 realms, so he sent some of his clansmen to hide in the 3 realms. Not just in the celestial realm, but in the lower realms as well. All of them were tamed demons, and once the realm gate opened, they could directly summon the Demon King. But I really don't know exactly how many there are." He quickly confessed everything in one breath. "You mean there are other demons in the immortal realm?" Lo Moon was shocked. "There should be, right?" He nodded, then continued. "The lower realm is not a good place, so the previous Demon King always wanted to conquer the immortal realm. It's just that 1,000,000 years ago, the immortal realm and the divine realm were connected. That's why I haven't found a chance to act." Lo Moon thought about it carefully and understood the whole story. In the past, the devil race did not dare to attack the immortal world because of the god race. After that, the god world and the immortal world fell out. But in the end, they left behind the Emperor Ascension stage and sealed the door to the demon world. The Demon King was not satisfied, so he sent some people to secretly cause destruction, wanting to open the realm gate. Zichun was one of them. It was just that he had prepared for so many years, and the demon race had already changed. At the last critical moment, he met Shining the cheat. For a moment, he did not know whether he should be happy for the immortal realm or mourn for Zichun. "Can you find these people?" Shining asked. Yes. The Demon King immediately nodded his head like a little chick. The Exalted Goddess's orders, he definitely could. "All right then, within 3 days. Think of a way to call all your people back." Shunning waved her hand and said, "In the future, manage your territory well. Don't come out and wander around if you have nothing to do." "Yes, Exalted Goddess, no problem, Exalted Goddess." "All right, you can go." "Yes, Exalted Goddess." Only then did the Demon King heave a sigh of relief. He immediately got up, picked up the fainted Zichun, and with a whoosh, disappeared through the door. 3 days later, the Demon King was quite efficient in his work. He took out a Heavenly Devil Order, which was an artifact used to summon demons. In less than a day after he took it out, people began to gather at the gate of the demon realm to report. Among these people, some looked like insignificant little immortals. Some were famous immortals in the immortal realm, and one of them was even a country emperor. Although they were not sky fiends, they all had their own ways to hide their identities. The more the celestial emperors saw, the more frightened they became. If not for Shining, perhaps it would not be long before the immortal realm really fell into the hands of the demon world. All of these people were brought back to the demon world by Little Black. The crisis was considered resolved. Zichun was also brought back to the demon world. Thinking about the Demon King's expression, he probably did not end up well. The only one who had not been dealt with was Hui Ling. What she had done was not considered a big deal, but it was not a small matter either. It was not because of her, and she was more or less influenced by Xine Han, but it was an indisputable fact that she had betrayed her master and stolen the divine artifact. No one else could say anything. The one who was most qualified to deal with this, and also the one who suffered the most, was Chen Ge. So the celestial emperors directly handed her over to him. Remove her immortal bones, destroy her cultivation, and send her back to the lower realm. Chen Ji's expression did not change. Word by word he stated Hui Ling's punishment, but his voice was cold. She came from the lower realm. Now she has returned to where she belongs. As for what happens in the future, it depends on her fate. Chen Ji's punishment seemed to be extra lenient. But to Hui Ling, it was the most severe punishment. Who would want to reincarnate and become immortal again after becoming an immortal? What's more, people who had their immortal bones removed could not cultivate again. A mortal's lifespan was less than 100 years. To Hui Ling, who was once an immortal, this was worse than death. It seemed that her previous actions had completely chilled Chen Ji's heart. He no longer had the slightest bit of indulgence towards her. Young Emperor Lone Moon, what do you think of this? Chen Ge turned to look at Red Radish. What does it have to do with me? Lone Moon glared at him. The anger he had been suppressing for the past few days exploded out. Let's put this aside for now. Didn't you say that I can change back as soon as I find my body? Why am I still a radish? Air. The corner of Chen Ji's mouth twitched. He said in a low voice, Young Emperor, our bodies are badly injured. If we let our primordial spirits return to our bodies, our injuries will worsen. We have to think about this carefully. We can't rush it. All right. Even if we have to wait for our bodies to recover before we can go back. Then, he took a deep breath and turned to stare at the radishes in the room. Why are you still here? The fight was over, shouldn't they go back? Why the hell were they still staying at Invincible Sect? Watering them didn't cost money. All the radishes froze. Father Nyo, it's not good for them to go back just like that. Shening interrupted. They were celestial emperors after all. Shut up. Lone Moon glared at her. If you hadn't beaten our bodies up so badly, do we need to be like radishes and play with them every day? Shening paused. Weren't you the one who asked me to beat them up faster that day? I asked you to beat that bastard Exine Han. Who asked you to use your belt to whip us? Wasn't that to save you? You're the one who's weak, blame me. Save your ass. Is that considered saving? When they came back to check, they found out that 8 out of the 9 people had their meridians broken and their immortal bones damaged because she had used her belt to whip them. The only one who was not too bad was Xian Tong. But because she was a fox, Exine Han did not control her body to attack them. She only lost too much blood in the sacrificial array. So now she was back in her fox body, and the others were still radishes. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He could not suppress his anger. Also move that stupid pot away from my head. Don't pour it on me anymore. Are you King colorblind? I said I'm not a radish, I'm not. Shening. I Ching. All the celestial emperors. Their primordial forms were damaged and they could not return to their bodies for the time being. What's more, 6 of the 8 radishes were celestial emperors. Those with lower cultivation levels might suffer if they tried to heal their bodies. The only one who could do it was Little Biao. But he did not know how long it would take to heal them one by one. Finally, he thought of a more efficient way. Since all the celestial emperors' primordial spirits are in the immortal herbs. The immortal herbs are wood elemental and have healing properties. Why don't we infuse our bodies with this aura? Biao Ting said seriously. What's more, earth and wood are interdependent. We can use this method to heal them. There's living soil in the back mountain. Living soil is immortal soil. It can help. Speak human language. Shening interrupted. Oh, I mean bury them with their bodies in the back mountain. Maybe they'll grow together with the radishes. All the radishes fell silent. But they had to try anything now. So they hugged their bodies and planted them in the back mountain. Perhaps they were traumatized by the Emperor Ascension stage. They planted themselves neatly in a circle. Exactly the same as when they were first trapped. Little Biao's method was indeed useful. With the help of the immortal veins in the back mountain and the living soil, their bodies could slowly sense the movement of their meridians. Then they could guide them to heal themselves. In order to speed up their recovery, they dug out immortal veins one by one and planted them in their bodies. In an instant, the immortal chi in Invincible Sect exceeded that in the heavens beyond heaven. Under the nourishment of so many immortal veins, Their bodies started to heal at a visible rate. What's more, the immortal herbs that only matured once in thousands and tens of thousands of years matured in less than 2 to 4 hours. The disciples' hands were sore from collecting so many vegetables. Seeing this, Lone Moon silently put away his small abacus that he had planned to calculate their accommodation fees. They were buried in the back mountain for half a month. Their bodies had mostly recovered. Just as they were about to fully recover, an unexpected piece of news came from the heavens beyond heaven. What? Hui Ling escaped. Lone Moon was shocked. Chen Ji's expression darkened. He was not in a good state to go back. That was why Hui Ling was escorted back by Biao Ting and locked in the immortal prison. Usually, he dealt with matters in Feng Song only through the communication talisman. He did not expect Hui Ling to escape from the immortal prison. Given her cultivation, she could not have broken through the immortal prison's array. Who helped her? It's. The voice in the communication talisman lowered and said hesitantly, Celestial Emperor, it's Lu Ming. What? Chen Ge was shocked. His face was full of disbelief. Half of the radish was red with anger. He knew that Lu Ming and Hui Ling were close, but he did not expect him to disobey his master's orders. This traitor. He had only taken in 2 disciples in his life. He did not expect one to be worse than the other. Even the other radishes in the pit looked at him sympathetically. Chen Ge took a deep breath to suppress his anger. In a low voice he said, Where did they escape to now? No, they did not escape. The voice in the communication talisman became even weaker. What do you mean? The voice in the talisman paused. After a while, it continued with some uncertainty. Lu Ming said that the Celestial Emperor was harmed by the traitors of Invincible Sect. It is unknown whether he is dead or alive. The person who ordered junior sister Hui Ling to be locked up is definitely not the Celestial Emperor himself. That is why he wants to contact all the country emperors to avenge the Celestial Emperor. Chen Ge, Lone Moon, all the radishes. They did not expect Hui Ling to have such a trick up her sleeve. Her intelligence was many times higher than before. When she was completely in love, she was the one who knew where Chen Ge was and what had happened to him. Now she was using the excuse of avenging him as an excuse. It was obvious that she wanted to use this excuse to get rid of Chen Ge while he was injured and replace him. Was she going to take a gamble because she knew that she could not escape punishment? Everyone's minds turned, and they understood immediately. They looked at Chen Ge with even more sympathy. They could not help but feel glad that they did not blindly take in disciples, because they had nothing better to do. But he wanted to attack Invincible Sect just because he had some country emperors on his side. Was there something wrong with his brain? Although Chen Ge was a radish now, Lan Hua, Biao Ting and I Ching were not to be trifled with. What's more, there was Shening. All the radishes were just about to discuss the intelligence of Chen Ji's disciple when Yu Hong rushed over. Panting, she said, Elder Lone Moon, many unfamiliar immortals suddenly appeared at the foot of the mountain. They are shouting that they want to avenge the Celestial Emperor. I know. They are the people of the various country emperors. Lone Moon nodded. Inform little Biao. No. Before he could finish, Yu Hong shook her head. They are from Feng Tian. What? Blackbird almost jumped out of the pit he was in. Why would people from Feng Tian come here? Very little Hong, are you sure? That's right. Yu Hong said confidently. They are all demon immortals. They say they are here to avenge you. I told them that you were fine, but they refused to listen. Blackbird looked confused. He was not even dead. What kind of vengeance was this? It's over, it's over. These people are dragging me down. Suddenly there was a loud bang. A transparent protective shield appeared in the sky above Invincible Sect, encircling the entire sect. This was the protective mountain array. Someone was attacking. Blackbird felt his anus tighten. Holy shit, those bastards really dared to come up. Before they could regain their senses, they saw a large number of immortals flying towards them. They were so dense that they occupied half the sky. Not only Feng Tian in the east, but also Yunzhe in the west, Yunhai in the north, Changnua in the south. Apart from Biaoting's Qingzhe continent, all the immortals from the other continents were here. What's more, they surrounded Invincible Sect in unison. The faces of the radishes, who were watching a good show just now, darkened in unison. They were going to die, they were going to die, they were going to die. Chapter 215. The sky above Invincible Sect was already filled with immortals, all of them brimming with immortal chi. Apart from Hui Ling and Lu Ming, the others were all famous immortals from various continents. The weakest of them was a Stygian immortal. The strange thing was that none of the country emperors of Fengsong had come. Behind them were a few immortals whom they had never seen before. Their cultivation levels were very low. The immortals came in a menacing manner. Without any explanation, they began to attack. All kinds of spells were cast, and the entire sky was filled with the light of different spells. But as soon as they were released, they were all blocked by the protective mountain array outside. Not a single person could rush in. After all, it was Lan Hua who had personally set up the protective mountain array. The country emperors of young emperors and immortal emperors would not be able to rush in quickly. All the disciples of Invincible Sect had already gathered at the square in front of the palace. Biaoting was alarmed as well. He looked at the densely packed immortals in the sky. What was going on? Were they collectively seeking death? Everyone Invincible Sect has wild ambitions. In order to unify the immortal world, they set up an array to plot against the emperors, causing them to fall. The immortals are usually protected by the emperors. Now that they are in trouble, we must avenge them. A male voice suddenly rang out in the sky, spreading through the entire Invincible Sect. In an instant, the immortals in the sky became even more agitated. They all began to shout for revenge. Don't spout nonsense, Biaoting retorted angrily. His voice carried the immortal pressure of a celestial emperor, immediately suppressing the voices of the immortals. Who told you that the emperors have fallen? Perhaps they felt the immortal pressure of a celestial emperor. But the immortals who were attacking the protective mountain array stopped. Biaoting flew up and looked at the immortals in the sky through the array. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that there were no demon immortals from Qingzhe. He turned to look at the two people in the lead and frowned. It's you. Wasn't this the traitor under Chengge? Emperor Biaoting, you don't have to act. Lu Ming did not seem to be afraid of his identity at all. He snorted and said, Invincible Sect dared to do such a thing. Naturally they would find an ally. You are in cahoots with them. You're just a minor gold immortal. Don't spout nonsense. Biaoting's expression darkened, and his immortal aura pressed down on Shining. Everyone in the Invincible Sect, especially Sect Master Shen, is a benevolent and righteous immortal. The things you said were clearly done by the woman beside you. Now that the matter had been exposed, were they going to push the blame onto the exalted goddess? I'm indeed on good terms with Invincible Sect, but that's out of my own will. I'm relying on my own abilities to cozy up to Invincible Sect. It's none of your business. Lu Ming was forced to take a step back by his immortal pressure. He panicked and hurriedly turned to look behind him. Emperor Baiti, you've seen it for yourself. Invincible Sect is indeed colluding with Qingzhe. The immortals made way for him, and one of them flew forward. Baiti. Biaoting was shocked as well. Why was he here? Emperor Biaoting. Baiti frowned and looked at him hesitantly. Were you really behind the deaths of the rulers? Who said the rulers were dead? Biaoting looked at him, as if he was an idiot. Baiti, you don't really believe what they're saying, do you? Don't tell me you don't know what kind of person Exalted Goddess Shun of the Invincible Sect is? If the Exalted Goddess wanted to unify the immortal world, why would she need to scheme? With one word, they would all have to kneel down, all right? Baiti really did not know. He only looked down warily at I Ching, who seemed to be counting the number of people. Are you saying that the rulers are fine? Baiti was even more hesitant. Actually, when Lu Ming said that the Invincible Sect had schemed against the rulers, Baiti was also suspicious. But when he looked around, he found that the other rulers were indeed not in their respective palaces. He already owed the Invincible Sect a favor. Seeing that the immortals from all the continents had all come here, he was afraid that something irreparable would happen. That was why he followed them. Of course they're fine. Biaoting shook his head and pointed to Hui Ling, who was standing beside Lu Ming. It was this woman who deceived her master and trapped everyone. It was the Invincible Sect who saved the rulers. They're just recuperating here. They'll be able to go back in a few days. Nonsense. My junior sister did not do such a thing. Lu Ming retorted loudly. He laughed coldly and said, "If it's really as you say, then why don't we invite the rulers to come out and confront them face to face?" Biaoting was speechless. If those radishes could come out, he wouldn't have the chance to persuade this bunch of brainless immortals. Not to mention how embarrassing their image was now. Just based on the fact that they had no combat power at all, they could not guarantee that they would be schemed against by immortals with evil intentions and really die. That was also why they would rather stay in the invincible sect than return to the heavenly palaces. At least they would not have to worry about their safety if they stayed here. Everyone. Lu Ming continued to incite the immortals behind him. My junior sister saw the invincible sect colluding with Celestial Emperor Qing Zhe to scheme against the rulers. It wasn't easy for her to escape and report to us. Now that Biaoting is here, it's the best proof. What's more, their evil deeds are not just that. With that said, he turned to Huiling beside him and said softly, "Junior sister, don't be afraid. Tell everyone what they did." Huiling glanced at Biaoting, a hint of panic flashing across her eyes. She immediately retracted her gaze, pretending to be frightened. However, her voice could still be heard clearly. "I saw Invincible Sect Master Shening colluding with the demons to set up an array on the Emperor Ascension stage, trapping all the celestial emperors. She even wanted to open the gates to the demonic world." As soon as she finished speaking, there was an uproar. The demons were actually involved. No wonder the rulers fell to their evil schemes. Recently, there's suddenly a lot of demonic qi in the heavens beyond heaven. Could it be that the gates to the demonic world have already been opened? As immortal cultivators, they colluded with the demons. We have to get rid of these scum. That's right, we have to avenge the celestial emperors. In an instant, the immortals who had just quietened down became excited again. King retards. Biaoting was so angry that his liver hurt. Suddenly, he did not want to care about these people who were courting death. They could do whatever they wanted. After all, the ones lying on the ground were not Qing Zhe's immortals. I advise you to quickly surrender. Lu Ming's expression darkened. He looked at the angry crowd and said, "Otherwise, the immortals will have to fight." Everyone. Huiling also stepped forward. Something flashed across her eyes. With a kind and worried expression, she said, "This could be the idea of Sect Master Shun and the others. I think most of the disciples of Invincible Sect are innocent. The important thing is to hand over Sect Master Shining and the 10 Directions divine weapon that they took away. We will not make things difficult for the others." She deliberately mentioned the 10 Directions divine weapon. Indeed, when the crowd heard that, their eyes lit up and they all began to shout, "That's right. Hand over that bastard Shun and the divine weapon. The divine weapon must not fall into the hands of the demons. Yes, hand over that Shun." Before the crowd could finish shouting, thousands of beams of white light suddenly lit up from the ground below Invincible Sect. They covered the sky and the earth and pounced towards the crowd, carrying with them an oppressive aura. Many people were unable to dodge in time and fell from the sky on the spot. Even Biaoting was almost hit. When he looked closely, he realized that it was a sky full of sword rain. Everyone fell silent. Young Emperor I Ching. Biaoting was stunned. He looked at I Ching, who suddenly flew up, the sword in his hand still emitting sword qi. Behind him were more than 10 disciples, all of them golden immortal to mystic immortal cultivation. The highest was only a Stygian immortal. He looked straight at the immortals outside the array, his expression a little excited. "Cut the crap." I Ching pointed his sword in the direction of Huiling and Lu Ming. "If you can fight, don't talk nonsense." Biaoting. He always thought that only exalted goddess Shen was violent. So everyone in Invincible Sect was like this? Sword qi exploded from I Ching's body. 6 immortal swords condensed behind him, each with a threatening sword qi. Even through the array, the immortals could feel the aura that seemed to penetrate their hearts. In the next moment, the 6 immortal swords once again turned into sword rain. Thousands of immortal swords lined up in a row, their tips pointed at the immortals. Where's exalted goddess Shen? Biaoting looked around and realized that Shening was not around. His expression changed. Was it really okay not to ask exalted goddess to come along? Master has important matters to attend to. It's not convenient for her to come, I Ching said in a low voice. We are enough. Then wait for I Ching. Don't rush. Before he could finish, I Ching waved his hand. Do it. Yes. All the disciples replied in unison. Wait, there are thousands of immortals here. Thousands of swords shot out at once. They were about to rush out of the array. Suddenly, a familiar and loud voice came from the back of the hall. Chef. Just as he was about to rush out of the formation, he stopped in midair with a click. Even the rain of swords in the air froze. Master. Biaoting heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, someone was here. However, the voice just now rang out loudly again. Where did you put the vinegar? I can't find it. Biaoting. By T. Lu Ming. Everyone. What the hell was vinegar? Wait. Why was the exalted goddess sitting in front of the table in the back hall? What was that pile of white stuff in front of her? Dumplings? Didn't she say she had important matters to attend to? Was her important matter to eat dumplings? And the kind where she couldn't find vinegar? Degree. Flip's table. This was a sect battle after all. Why did he feel like he was the only outsider who was nervous? Master, please wait. I Ching did not hesitate at all. With a whoosh, he flew down from the sky and burrowed into the kitchen in the back hall. In less than 3 seconds, he came out with a few small plates and placed them in front of Shening. He said seriously, Master, this is vinegar, this is chili, and this is the side dish. Oh, I'm not used to eating dumplings without dipping sauce. Master, do you have any other instructions? No. Go and do what you need to do. Yes, Master. So he flew back into the crowd, still looking calm and collected. He held his weapon and looked at the immortals in the sky. Sword chi flowed in all directions. It was as if the person who ran back to the kitchen to prepare the dipping sauce was not him. Wait a minute. What was he holding in his hand? That was a spatula, right? W. Attack. Yes. The disciples replied. Without any hesitation, the 10,000 swords shot out in unison towards the crowd of stunned immortals. Biaoting. Wait a minute. Why did they start fighting just like that? Why didn't the disciples have any doubts? It was as if it was normal for him to return to the kitchen midway. Why did the immortals cooperate and wait for him to prepare the dipping sauce before attacking? More importantly, why was it that I Ching was holding a spatula in his hand, but the immortals were still beaten down like dumplings? Did no one think that there was anything wrong with him waving the spatula around? Why? Is identical to. Chapter 216. Invincible Sect. And the immortals had already started fighting. But the more they fought, the more shocked the immortals became. Although there were many immortals, they did not seem to have the upper hand. Not only was I Ching's sword array too terrifying, he clearly had the cultivation level of a young emperor. But even a country monarch with the cultivation level of an immortal emperor would not be able to gain the upper hand against him. What's more, I Ching still had the time to take care of the other disciples behind him. Although the other disciples of Invincible Sect had lower cultivation levels, but they were all body cultivators. Body cultivators were so rare that these immortals, who had lived for thousands of years, probably had not seen more than 5. Moreover, they had only seen them in the lower realm, not to mention successfully becoming immortals. But here they were everywhere. Women alive, the kind that could send 4 or 5 people flying with a single punch. Invincible Sect was full of body cultivators. What kind of weird immortal sect was this? The immortals wondered if their eyes were playing tricks on them. But the punches that landed on them were unbelievably real. There were clearly only 10 or so people on the other side. But the strange thing was that they were evenly matched. Moreover, the protective mountain array behind them was very difficult to deal with. When they were tired, they could retreat to rest and continue fighting. The only one who could break the array by T stood in the air and did not make a move. He looked hesitant. Celestial Emperor by T, why aren't you making a move? Lu Ming turned and urged. His expression darkened as he added. Are you going to watch as the 10 directions divine weapon falls into the hands of the demons? Bai Ti frowned. He looked at I Ching, who was surrounded by more than 10 country emperors, and felt a little tempted. But the next moment, Biao Ting flew up and stood in front of him. Bai Ti, if you really want to make a move, you'll have to get past me first. Celestial Emperor Biao Ting. He stopped in his tracks. He did not know who to listen to, and he became even more hesitant. The situation became even more chaotic. Hui Ling, who had been hiding behind the immortals, had a glint in her eyes. She had somehow avoided the people who were fighting, and had circled to the back. Her eyes shone brightly, as she looked at a certain spot in the array. Something flashed across her face. While the immortals were fighting, she suddenly took out an item. A white light flashed in her hand, and she attacked the array. Her cultivation level was the lowest, not to mention the immortals. Even I Ching did not notice her. There was a loud crash, and the protective mountain array surrounding the invincible sect exploded like a broken mirror. Everyone was shocked, and then ecstatic. The mountain guarding grand array is broken. It was unknown who shouted, but the immortals reacted and rushed back into the sect. I Ching's heart tightened. He forced the country emperors away with his sword, and turned around to fly back. There were only low-level disciples in the sect, not to mention the group of fragile radishes in the back mountain. Yu Hong and the others who were fighting outside the array also reacted and retreated back to the front hall. However, they were still too few in number. Previously, with the array formation, they had no worries, which was why they were able to force them back temporarily. Now that the array formation was broken, the immortals swarmed forward, and they lost their advantage for a moment. Just as the sky full of immortals was about to charge down, a large amount of dense demonic energy suddenly appeared, sweeping towards the immortals like a gale. Those who couldn't dodge in time were directly corroded by the demonic energy, and their bodies were immediately corroded to the bone. Demon race. There really is a demon here. The invincible sect is indeed in cahoots with the demon race. Lu Ming was right. The celestial emperor must have been harmed by them. The immortals cried out, looking at the people of the invincible sect even more angrily. However, they were afraid of the sudden increase in demonic energy, and did not dare to take another step forward. Why did you come out? I Ching frowned and looked at Lan Hua beside him. Wasn't this causing trouble? You only said that there was an array formation, and I didn't need to come out. Isn't the array formation gone now? Lan Hua glared coldly at the immortals in the sky. What's more, I was the one who set up the protective mountain array. How could I not know that it was broken? Where's Goodheart? Is she all right? He scanned the crowd, looking for Shunning out of habit, but did not find her. Where is she? It's noon now. Huh. What did she mean? Master is having lunch. Lan Hua's mouth twitched. How could she be a sect master? Forget it. It's good that she's not here. What if something happens? He glanced at the shocked immortals in front of him. Who exactly broke the array formation? It's... I Ching subconsciously looked in the direction where Hui Ling had been just now, but found that she was no longer there. Huh. His heart sank. He scanned with his divine perception, but found that Hui Ling had gone to the back hall. Master. I Ching was shocked. He turned and rushed to the back hall. At the same time in the back hall, Shening, who was eating dumplings, looked blankly at the green tea that suddenly appeared in front of her. What's the matter? Shening. Hui Ling suddenly gave her a strange smile. She said confidently, You can't escape. Today, I'm going to get rid of you on behalf of the immortal realm. As soon as she finished speaking, Hui Ling suddenly conjured a seal with both hands. Her entire body emitted a blinding white light that swept across the surroundings. Her speed was extremely fast, and it looked like she was about to engulf Shening. At that critical moment, she suddenly reached out with her empty left hand. With lightning speed, she picked up the half-eaten dumplings on the table. The next moment, the two of them and the plate of dumplings disappeared on the spot. All that was left was a table with 3 empty plates. Master. I Ching rushed in, but he was still one step too late. The back hall was already empty. Where did Sect Master go? Yu Hong, who had followed him in, was also confused. What sorcery did that female immortal use just now? I've never seen it before either. Lan Hua frowned, his expression serious. Is she all right? I don't think so. With Good Heart's ability. No. I'm talking about that female immortal just now. Is she all right in the head? She actually dared to challenge their sect master. How brave she was. For all. I really want to watch. Lan Hua. I Ching. In the blink of an eye, Shening felt that the scene in front of her had changed. Beneath her feet was a field of grass. There was nothing around her except for more grass. She could not see the end of it. Green Tea, who had been standing in front of her, had also disappeared. The scenery was a little monotonous. Shening looked around calmly, then ate the dumpling that was still on her chopsticks. It was filled with chives and meat. Shening, you caused me to end up like this. Today is the day you pay for it. Suddenly, Hui Ling's voice sounded. Shening could not tell where it came from. She could not see Hui Ling, but her voice reached Xin Ying's ears. It was as if Hui Ling did not exist in this world, yet she was everywhere. Shening did not answer. She ate another dumpling. Do you know what this place is? This is the side realm, the gap between the three realms. It does not belong to any realm. It is not even governed by the heavenly Tao. I know you are very powerful. Even the Demon King is no match for you. But this place is endless. Even if you are very powerful, you will not be able to escape. She ate another dumpling. I did not want this to happen either. But you brought this upon yourself. If not for you, I would not have lost my master, my father, and even Xian Han. You owe me this. She ate another dumpling. Your invincible sect colluded with the demons. None of you are good people. Especially that slut called Xian Tong. She seduced my master. Otherwise, my master would not have been deceived by you and treated me like that. But it doesn't matter now. The immortals will uphold justice for me. They will get rid of you scourges in the immortal realm. She ate another dumpling. You are about to die. And you still have the mood to eat dumplings. Then repent in this side realm forever. I will let you. Stop eating. Shen, are you listening to me or not? Shening paused and ate the last dumpling. She kept her chopsticks and plate and replied, Oh, do you think the side realm is just like this? She seemed to be very angry and snorted. The next moment, the scene in front of her changed. The grass disappeared, and a large patch of lava appeared under Xin Ying's feet. Deviant flames appeared everywhere and rushed towards her. But they could not burn her at all. In a short while, the deviant flames disappeared, and a thick layer of ice appeared on the ground. It was as if even the air was about to freeze. Countless icicles appeared and stabbed towards her like thorns. But the moment they touched her body, they shattered. After the ice disappeared, wind came, and then thunder. Every element came again. Shening cooperated and stood where she was. She did not move at all until the surroundings changed back to the grass. Let's see how long you can last. Hui Ling's voice became even colder. I have already refined this place. In this side realm, I am the master. That's it. Shening tilted her head and narrowed her eyes. Then it's my turn. What? Hui Ling was stunned. Before she could react, Shening, who had been standing where she was, disappeared in a flash. In the next moment, she appeared somewhere in the sky. She suddenly reached out and grabbed at the void, throwing something down. There was a whooshing sound. Suddenly, another figure appeared in midair and fell straight down from the sky. With a loud bang, she hit the ground and sank 3 inches into the ground. Hui Ling felt a huge amount of blood rush up her chest. She opened her mouth and spat out blood. Her whole body was in so much pain that she could not move. She did not even dare to think about her injuries. She did not have time to react. Her eyes widened as she looked at Shening. No. Impossible. How could you have discovered me? Shen Ying's mouth twitched. Please. You told her from the start that there was a crack here. You stood next to the crack and said those harsh words for so long. It would be strange if she did not discover you, right? She was not blind. Who exactly are you? Hui Ling's eyes widened. She still could not believe it. The side realm has already been refined. How could you pull me in? Only I can control this place. Oh, is it because of the necklace on your chest? Shenning asked. The second one. Huiling's face paled. She subconsciously clutched her chest and moved backward. You. Impossible. How did you know? I don't like to bully girls. Shenning sighed. She did not answer. Instead, she raised her hand and slapped Huiling's beak. Who sent you to deal with me? Who is the person behind you? What did you say? Huiling was stunned. Panic finally appeared on her face. She struggled with all her might, but could not pull herself out of the ground. Instead, because she moved too hard, she kept spitting out blood. What do you mean? Let go of me. Stop pretending. Shenning frowned. She had always hated things that required her brain. In this world, my presence has been especially low. Everyone subconsciously ignores my existence. Only you do not. Moreover, from the first time we met, you have been strangely hostile towards me. Now you want to blame everything on me. These are not things that can be explained by a retard, right? Originally, the people who caught her at the Emperor Ascension stage were Lung and her father. The person who wanted to punish her was Salted Fish. What did it have to do with her? She had only met this green tea 3 times, right? But she went around in a big circle and focused all her hatred on her. This hatred was not only strange, it was also ridiculous. Even Heaven and Earth Great Shift would not dare to do this, unless she was the target from the beginning. I don't know what you're talking about. Huiling still looked at her in fear. You won't look like me if you continue pretending. Shenying's expression darkened. Speaking of this, there is something wrong with my presence. Why is it that the moment I came to this world, only you are immune to it? Unless the person who pulled me into this world is the same person who ordered you to do this. Speak. Who is he? What did he do to me? What is his motive? What do you want? Huiling panicked even more. Looking at the person who suddenly came closer, she screamed in fear. Go away. Shenning pulled the necklace off Huiling's neck. Or should I ask, who gave you this necklace? I don't know what you're talking about. I picked up the necklace. Give it back to me. Huiling's face turned pale. Suddenly, she pulled her hand out of the soil and tried to snatch the necklace back. That's mine. Shenning moved her hand away reflexively, but she still touched the red string that was dangling down. In the next moment, the necklace in her hand suddenly emitted a white glow. In an instant, it turned into spots of light and disappeared, leaving only a red string in her hand. My necklace! Huiling's eyes widened. Her expression became even more frenzied. No. What have you done? Before she could finish speaking, she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Her entire body started to emit a white light, just like the necklace earlier. Her entire body seemed to be broken into pieces. Her face was filled with extreme fear. She even started to beg for help from the person in front of her. No. I don't want to die from the backlash. Save me, save me, save. Before she could finish speaking, her entire body had disappeared. Even the scene in front of her began to distort. In less than a moment, it was as if a canvas had been removed. Everything disappeared. Shenning had already returned to the chair in the back hall of Invincible Sect. In front of her were a few empty plates. She lowered her head to look at her empty hand. After a moment she frowned. This was no longer interesting. Chapter 217. Master. I Ching was the first to notice Shenying's return. He wanted to come over, but was held back by more than 10 country emperors. Shenning had been gone for a long time. Invincible Sect's battle was getting more and more difficult. Although the disciples were not weak, the other side had too many people. Especially when the protective mountain array was broken, they had nowhere to retreat. If this went on for a long time, even immortals would get tired. Some of the disciples were even injured. Good heart. Lan Hua used demonic qi to protect a few low-level earth immortal disciples. He turned back and asked, Why are you only back now? What exactly happened? Hey, are you okay? Seeing that she did not respond, Lan Hua pushed her. Why are you in a daze? What's wrong? What's wrong? What else could it be? Lan Hua glared at her. Can't you see? Help me. If this went on, these people would really attack the radish field at the back of the mountain. Shenning looked up. The sky was full of immortals, flashes of spells and all kinds of weapons. She frowned. This was really a little annoying. For all. Hashtag she answered in a low voice. Oh. Then she got up and picked up a sword that was stuck in the ground, and pulled it out. Good heart, go to the back of the mountain and fend off. Lan Hua was about to say that she should go to the back of the mountain to guard. After all, Lone Moon and the others were there, and there was only one array. Before he finished speaking, he felt a weight on his shoulder. She pushed him away. Excuse me. He lost his balance and was pushed to the ground. What are you? He was about to lose his temper when he saw Shening suddenly step forward. She turned the sword in her hand and swung it forward forcefully. It was a very ordinary swing of the sword, but in an instant, the sword transformed into a terrifying sword chi, as if it could split the heavens and split the earth. It swept towards the opposite side. There was a loud boom. A bottomless abyss appeared in the ground. The entire immortal realm seemed to have been split apart by a sword. The huge crack extended forward. The ground shook continuously. Even the sky was distorted, as if it would collapse at any moment. The immortals could not even maintain their flying swords. They fell to the ground. The whole place was silent. Therefore, everyone looked at the bottomless abyss at the foot of the invincible sect mountain in a daze, unable to react for a long time. What just happened? Sigma Q, P scram. A voice suddenly rang out. It wasn't loud, but it was especially obvious in the silence. The immortals felt a chill in their hearts. They couldn't help but shiver. All the meridians in their bodies felt like they were frozen. A sense of boundless fear instantly crept into everyone's heart. It was unknown who started it first, but they turned around and flew away on their swords. They did not even turn back to look at who the culprit was. In the next moment, it was as if a switch had been flipped on the immortals, who had fallen all over the ground. They all began to fly their swords, burrow into the ground and summon clouds. They scrambled and scrambled to be the first to leave the invincible sect. In less than a quarter of an hour, they had all left, leaving behind a ground full of dermic artifacts that had not been picked up in time. Thus, the Immortal Alliance's battle against the invincible sect came to an abrupt end just as they were about to win. Apart from the people of the invincible sect, no one knew what had happened. Even the immortals did not know why they had to escape. There was only one thought left in everyone's mind. If they didn't leave, they would die. A winky face, the 10 Directions continent returned to its previous peace. However, there was suddenly an additional crack on the ground that spanned across the entire immortal realm. It was less than 3 feet wide but bottomless. If they were lucky, they could occasionally see the images of the 3 realms through the crack. Half a month later, there's someone behind Hui Ling's back, and it could be the person who transmigrated us to this world. Lone Moon was shocked and stood up immediately. Yes. Shening picked up the cup on the table and moved it to the side before nodding. You're saying that we were dragged here by someone and not transmigrated here by accident? Lone Moon looked at her in disbelief. Yes. She continued to nod. Lone Moon glanced at the calm Shening. When did you know about this? I knew from the beginning. She crunched on her fruit. From the beginning? Holy shit. Then why didn't you tell me? You didn't ask. You wouldn't tell me if I didn't ask. Where was the trust between father and daughter? I thought you knew. Which eye of yours saw that I knew? Who could guess such a thing so casually? Shening tilted her head. Didn't you say about the plot? He was confused. What did she mean? What does this have to do with the plot? The book you're reading. Shening continued to eat her fruit leisurely. Apart from the love scenes, although the process is completely different, aren't the people who appear and the final outcome similar? Lone Moon thought about it carefully. Indeed, all the characters in the plot that he remembered had appeared, be it the male and female leads I Ching, and the gate to the demonic realm had indeed appeared in the end. But, what has this got to do with me? I'm not a character in the plot. Precisely because you're not. What do you mean? They were not characters in the book in the first place. Sigh. Shening sighed and put down the fruit that only had the core left. Father Nyo, you keep saying that this book belongs to your niece. Then do you remember which publishing house this book was published by? Who is the author? How much is it priced? Who would pay attention to this when reading a book? He retorted out of habit. Alright, even if you didn't pay attention, what about the cover? You should have seen the cover of this book, right? What style is it? Can you tell me more about it? Of course I know this, it's... Lone Moon stopped mid-sentence. The clear image in his mind suddenly became blurry. He really couldn't remember what the cover looked like. You can't remember? Why is that? Because you haven't even read this book, or this book wasn't your niece's in the first place. How is that possible? I clearly saw my niece holding it the entire summer vacation. Is that so? Shining continued. You dote on your niece a lot, don't you? Of course. Although he didn't know why she suddenly asked this, he still nodded habitually. I only have this niece. That's even stranger. Shining glanced at him. You're so rich and you dote on your niece. Yet you let her read a pirated book for the entire summer vacation. Pirated book? How can it be? Father Neo. She interrupted him, patted his shoulder and said, pornographic articles cannot be published legally. Get rid of pornography and illegal publications. You have to understand it. I already said it wasn't pornographic. Alright, it was a little pornographic. Carrot asterisk, oh. Carrot so? Shining stood up and calmly exchanged the empty plate in front of her with the fruit in his hand. She continued, if you really saw such a book, the only possibility is that someone deliberately let you see it. Lone Moon frowned. You're saying that someone deliberately let me transmigrate into this book. You still think this is the world in the book? Lone Moon hesitated. Isn't it? Is it? Chapter 218. Isn't there a saying that a world exists in a flower? It was not strange for a book to have a world, was it? I don't know if a flower has a world, but it's alive. A book is just ink and fiber. Do you think these can give birth to life? She made so much sense that he was speechless. Even if there is a world in a book, it can only be a two-dimensional world. How can a three-dimensional person like you be pulled into it? Shining said as she nibbled on her fruit. Let's take a step back and say that this is really a world in a book. We are not erasers. Why should we change a plot that has already been printed? Lone Moon was stunned. His heart sank. You mean to say that someone in this world wrote this book, and then deliberately summoned us into this world? But the plot in the book is about what happened after I transmigrated. Then isn't this a prophecy book? Shining finished. Shit. There were indeed spells that could predict the future. But would there be such a thing as a pornographic novel? But thinking about it, the reason why they could change the plot so easily was because the future was uncertain. Who is that bastard? Did you get anything from Huiling? No. Shining shook her head. She told him about Green Tea's disappearance in detail. Lone Moon's frown deepened. A worry that he had never felt before came over him. This feeling of being controlled by someone else was terrible. The key was that he had no idea who the other party was. Huiling died just like that. Yes. Then do you think Huiling knew? Shining was silent for a moment. She shook her head. I don't think so. Green Tea did not look like she was lying. She really did not know what she was asking. She was just a pawn that was being used without knowing it. Then why did the person behind the scenes want us to transmigrate into this world? The more Lone Moon thought about it, the bigger the mystery became. And that book? What was his purpose in writing this book and telling me about it? Shining frowned. A moment later she said in a low voice, maybe to open that door? What door? The door to the demonic realm. Lone Moon's eyes widened in shock. He thought carefully about the plot in the book. The last battle was indeed at the gate of the demonic realm. But before the door was fully opened, it was sealed by I Ching. He had admired the I Ching in that plot from the very beginning. Of course, that was before he became a chef. After knowing the plot, she tried her best to stop him from dying for sealing the gate to the demonic realm. If the book was purposely misleading him, then this should be the result that the author wanted to see. You're saying that the person who caused us to transmigrate is very likely someone from the devil realm? Shining nodded. That's why he instructed Huiling to go to the fringe realm. As long as Shining was not around, no one would be able to stop the demon realm from invading the immortal realm. It was just that the other party might not have expected that Shining could not be trapped in the plane of existence. Lone Moon hurriedly stood up and turned to instruct Yu Hong. Yu Hong, go and look for Lan Hua. Ask him to set up an array and go to the Emperor Ascension stage. Shen Ning had given Little Black 3 days to bring away the demons hiding in the immortal world. Now that a month had passed, the gate should have disappeared. Let's see if the gate to the demonic realm. Before he could finish, the ground shook, and a loud rumbling sound came from far away. Large amounts of immortal chi surged forward, sweeping through the entire main hall. Lone Moon's heart tightened. He had a bad feeling. He exchanged a look with Shen Ning and hurried out of the main hall. The shaking did not stop. It was not just Invincible Sect. Everywhere else was shaking. It was as if the entire world had come to life. The front of the main hall was filled with disciples. Master! Even I Ching, who was cooking, rushed out. He was still holding a spatula in his hand. He turned to look at Shen Ning, then turned to look into the distance, frowning deeply. Did you sense anything? Lone Moon asked hurriedly. I Ching was most sensitive to auras. I Ching raised his spatula and pointed into the distance. The immortal chi is surging over here. It's like it's being chased away by something. I don't know what it is. Chased away? Something fell down, Shen Ning suddenly said. What? Lone Moon was shocked. What before he finished speaking, a black fog-like object suddenly appeared. It flew towards Shen Ning at an extremely fast speed. Shan, who's there? I Ching, who was standing beside Shen Ning, swung his spatula at it. Ow! There was a scream. The whole black fog was slapped out and landed heavily on the stone floor in front of them. Holy shit! Chef, why did you hit me? This voice was Lone Moon was stunned. He looked at the person who was crawling up from the ground. You're Lan Hua. Of course it's me. Who else here has demonic chi? He got up angrily and conjured a seal. Instantly, the demonic chi on his body disappeared, and he returned to his human form. Why did you release demonic chi for no reason? Lone Moon rolled his eyes. Who could tell who you were with that black fog? You deserve to be beaten up. Who released it? I didn't want to either. It's because. Oh right. He seemed to have remembered something important. He turned to look at Shen Ning and looked her up and down. Good heart, are you alright? Are you missing an arm or a leg? Tell me quickly. Shen Ning. I Ching frowned and slapped his unruly hand away with his spatula. Master is fine. What do you mean by that? You're really fine? His face was full of doubt. He frowned. Then why did I suddenly become a sky fiend? Sky fiend? Everyone was shocked. You broke through in your cultivation. That's right. He nodded. Just now my cultivation suddenly increased, and I became a sky fiend. I thought something happened to Good Heart. That's why I came to take a look. Logically speaking, he could only become a sky fiend if he got rid of his last trace of Good Heart. But just now, he and Radish were filling the hole in the back mountain. Suddenly he rose up. Did anything happen to you just now? The bad feeling in Lone Moon's heart was getting stronger and stronger. No. He shook his head. Suddenly, a lot of demonic chi appeared out of nowhere. I couldn't control it. Indeed, black chi slowly emerged from his body. It looked like he was going to turn into a black fog again. Demonic chi. Lone Moon's eyes widened. His heart sank. He turned to look at Shen Ning and said in a low voice, Lan Hua, set up an array to send us to the Emperor Ascension stage. Hurry. Huh. Lan Hua hesitated. He did not understand what Lone Moon meant, but he still activated his demonic chi to cut through the void. Perhaps because of his breakthrough in cultivation, he set up the array very quickly. In a short while, a black crack appeared in front of them. Let's go. Lone Moon dove into it. The other three hurriedly followed. In an instant, the scene in front of them changed. They were in another world. The moment they stepped out of the crack, the four of them felt a familiar tremor. It was the same as what they felt in Invincible Sect. Only this time it was much stronger. In the next moment, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. They saw that the sky, which was originally filled with immortal chi, was now so thin that they could barely see it. The void behind the Emperor Ascension stage had suddenly turned black. It was as if the entire sky had been split into two. Half of it was black, and the other half was pure white. Faintly, They could see that in the darkness, there were strange rocks and lava everywhere. It was filled with black fog. It looked familiar. Shen Ying's eyes narrowed. That was Chapter 219. The Demon Realm, Lan Hua exclaimed, his face full of confusion. As a demon, he could naturally tell what was in front of him. Holy shit. Longmun's expression darkened. He wanted to curse out loud. The demon realm had actually appeared here. This was not just a gate to the demon realm. The entire demon realm had fallen down. It was directly connected to the immortal realm. The Emperor Ascension stage was originally at the edge of the heavens beyond heaven. Not far below it was the void. It was also the border of the immortal realm. Beyond that was the void. Now that the demon realm had appeared, it looked like it was directly connected to the immortal realm. No wonder there was such a huge commotion just now. The entire immortal realm shook for an hour without stopping. The immortal realm and demon realm were on the same level. Now that they were connected, it would be strange if there was no commotion. What's going on? I Ching frowned as he looked at the miraculous scene in front of him. Who would have the ability to pull the entire demon realm into the immortal realm? It looks like we can only ask the demon in question. Longmun's voice was cold. The four of them turned to stare at a certain figure on the Emperor Ascension stage. The Demon King's body trembled. He suppressed the urge to turn and run. He straightened his stiff body and knelt even more obediently. You did this. Longmun pointed at the demon realm that had suddenly appeared and the gate to the demon realm that had split open behind him. I'm innocent, exalted goddess. The Demon King broke out in cold sweat. Tears were about to fall. I don't know what happened either. I've already listened to you and brought all the devils back. But suddenly this gate split open. And then, I'm here. He did not want to come to the ghost immortal realm. It was easy for him to be the Demon King. Who did he offend? Now that the demon realm and the immortal realm were in the same realm, there was not even a gate. Perhaps he would meet the exalted goddess as he walked. That was too scary. He felt that the entire demon realm was not good. You really didn't do it when the demon realm fell into the immortal realm? Longmun was suspicious. It really didn't. The Demon King shook his head furiously. He was no longer a demon with a goal. If I had that ability, I wouldn't have waited until now, right? Let's not talk about how much power was needed to connect the two worlds. Even if he could connect the two worlds, he would still choose the mortal world. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never choose the celestial world. Then who has the ability to do so? Shen suddenly asked. The Demon King froze for a moment, a confused look on his face. I don't know either. Opening the gate to the demon world is already very difficult, let alone connecting the two worlds. I have never seen anyone with such an ability. Unless, his eyes suddenly lit up, as if he had thought of something. Someone from the God Realm. God Realm. Everyone was stunned. Yes. The Demon King immediately nodded and said excitedly. Back then, the Immortal Realm and God Realm were connected. It's just that they had a falling out after that. The celestial race broke the heavenly pillar and left behind a formation that separated the two worlds, forming a separate world. That's how they separated. The heavenly pillar. Longmun turned to look behind him. The dilapidated gate to the demon world stood in the middle of a pile of rubble. A thought flashed across his mind. Could it be that the demon world fell into the immortal realm because of the Emperor Ascension stage? He turned to look at the others. Indeed, they had thought of this as well. The fog that had been shrouding their hearts just now dissipated in an instant. Shen said that the person behind the scenes who allowed them to transmigrate was to open the gate to the demon world. But this could have been done by anyone. Why would he cross worlds to find them? What's more, when they were at Invincible Sect, the gate to the demon world opened once, but nothing like this happened. What's more, after Shen came out, the gate mysteriously disappeared. This time, although the gate to the demon world had been closed, it had been standing there all along. In other words, opening the gate was secondary. The most important thing was where to open it. Obviously, the Emperor Ascension stage was his ultimate goal. It was not just to open the gate. He wanted to use the isolation array on the heavenly pillar to pull the demon world over. and merge it with the immortal realm. How do you know about the heavenly pillar? Lone Moon glanced at him. They had only found out about the Emperor Ascension stage and the heavenly pillar not long ago. As for the isolation array, they had never heard of it before. This is what the demonic book says. The Demon King turned his hand and immediately retrieved a black talisman. He handed it over. This is a history book written by the previous demon kings of my race. Everyone in the demon world knows about it. History book? The demon race had such a hobby. Lone Moon took the talisman and subconsciously tried to activate it with his immortal chi. However, he found that he could not move it. The corner of his mouth twitched. He had no choice but to hand it over to Lan Hua. Lan Hua transferred a bit of demonic chi into the talisman. In the next moment, rows of black words appeared in front of him. The words demonic book were written on the first row. The smaller words below clearly stated, Year 43,671 of the demonic calendar. I became a demon king. Hee. I decided to kill those bastards who laughed at me. Year 109,135 of the demonic calendar. I killed the previous demon king. From today onwards, I am your new demon king. Year 244,000 of the demonic calendar. I got bored being a demon king. I heard that there was an immortal world outside. I decided to go out and have some fun. Year 204,001 of the demonic calendar. The previous demon king was played to death by the divine race. I am the new demon king. Year **** of the demonic calendar. I went to the immortal world today and met Cui Hua. She's so beautiful. Hee. I want to marry the queen. I don't know how many years it has been in the demonic calendar. I heard that the perverts of the divine race fell out with the immortals. The heavenly pillar was broken. They even set up an isolation array. Ha, they deserved it. I told you not to let me see Cui Hua. I don't know how many years it has been in the demonic calendar. The demon world is sealed. I can't get out. My Cui Hua. Sob. I can't be bothered to count the years. For Cui Hua, I must open the gates to the demonic world. Cui Hua, wait for me. Demonic calendar, Shining. Lone Moon. I Ching. Lan Hua. This is called a freaking history book. This is basically a diary written by the previous generations of demon kings. No, it's the New Year Crossing diary. And what the hell is with this casual tone? As demon kings, this is only the level of education they have. Don't they feel embarrassed to be spreading it around the entire demon race? Learn more about the 9 years of compulsory education. And what the hell is that Cui Hua who appeared so many times? Could it be that the person who recorded the diary is the former demon king of Little Black, who planted a lot of spies in the immortal world in order to open the gates to the demonic world? So the reason why the demonic world wanted to invade the immortal world was to make it easier for the former demon king to fall in love? Degree. What a scam! At that moment, everyone felt a sense of humiliation. Suddenly, they did not want to ask any questions about the mastermind at all. What was going on? This guy was definitely not the one who transmigrated them. He definitely wasn't. Otherwise, it would be too freaking embarrassing. Chapter 220. The demon realm suddenly merged with the immortal realm, causing panic in the entire immortal realm. The demons had always been the common enemy of the immortal realm. It could be said that the two realms were born to oppose each other. Once the commotion stopped that day, many immortals went to the Emperor Ascension stage to investigate. Perhaps because of Little Black's strict control, the demon realm was very quiet. No demons suddenly appeared, so there was no fighting yet. But this investigation scared the immortals out of their wits. This was not just opening a demonic gate. The entire demon race had moved next door to them. The demons had always been ferocious. There were 10 sky fiends in the demon realm. Sky fiends were equivalent to celestial emperors. Now that the immortal realm had lost 2 celestial emperors, the opponent had an even stronger demon king. If they really fought, the entire immortal realm would be wiped out. In an instant, all the immortals near the Emperor Ascension stage had moved away. Everyone was panicking. The immortal and demon war was about to break out. Only the celestial emperors in the heavens beyond heaven remained calm. What was the Demon King? They had the exalted gods. 3. The moment the celestial emperors received the news, they all thought of Shining. Thus, the radishes that had finally returned to their bodies turned around and gathered at Invincible Sect. Seeing the row of radishes at the foot of the mountain, no, the celestial emperors, Loneland's face darkened. Damn it, this group of freeloaders, are they done yet? They had not even paid for their lodgings last time. Great, they even added by tea to their list. Thus, he silently added another sum to the celestial emperor's loan book. Shining did not want to care about these radishes. She casually called Little Black over. Let them discuss their own affairs among themselves. Anyway, no one brought food for her. Perhaps it was because of Lan Hua, the demon, or because the Demon King's obedient appearance on the Emperor Ascension stage left a deep impression on the celestial emperors. The friendly discussion between the two sides went surprisingly smoothly. The celestial emperors did not dislike the Demon King much less fight over a disagreement. Everyone knew that this was not the situation of the immortal and divine realms. At that time, with the support of the heavenly pillar, the two realms were only separated by an upper and lower bunk, so they could still be independent. The demon world and the immortal world had already merged into one. It was equivalent to expanding from a 1.5-meter bed to a 2-meter bed. If they were separated, the entire thing would collapse. It was already a fact that the immortal world had become the same world of immortals and demons. Since there was no way to separate them, then they could only get along. Although the two realms were fused, there was a ready-made boundary. As long as one didn't deliberately cause trouble, there wouldn't be any major problems. The conflict between immortals and demons could not be avoided, so there was a need to set rules. The celestial emperors and demon kings discussed for a few days, and finally settled on a treaty of peace and friendship between the immortal and demon realms. Basically, they would maintain the status quo before the fusion, where they would not invade or interfere with each other's internal affairs. In other words, they could do whatever they wanted in their own territory. Both sides had no objections to this. After discussing some details, the meeting was adjourned. The Demon King reported to Shining, and then slipped away. The 8 imperial emperors, however, shamelessly stayed behind. What? Shining paused. Wuxia River, what's that? Exalted goddess. Chuxian chuckled. He stepped forward and explained. Zichun is a demon and Xan Han has already perished. The Wuxia River are no longer protected by the celestial emperor. Naturally, someone has to take over. Then, with exalted goddess's cultivation level, you are naturally the best person to take charge of the two places. Moreover, the Wuxia River are connected, it's just right. Also connected to the demon realm? Shining exposed him. Chu Xian, the imperial emperors. Did she have to be so incisive? How were they supposed to continue with their conversation? +_+, Sect Master Shin. In the end, it was Chen Ge who braced himself and said, We do have the idea of letting you deter the demons, but the Wuxia Shui cannot be without an emperor for a long time. Otherwise, there will be chaos after a long time. That place is close to the demon realm. It's hard to guarantee that the demon realm will not be involved. That's right, exalted goddess. Chu Xian nodded vigorously. Currently, there are no immortals in the immortal realm who have cultivated to the celestial emperor level. We really have no other choice, that's why we're here. I'm not going. Shining slumped onto the chair. She rejected him instantly. Being an official was so troublesome. Father Neo forced her to water the plants as a sect master every day. Would the celestial emperor still have time to eat? No way. Chu Xian paused. Exalted goddess. You don't have to say any more. She won't go. Lone Moon glanced at a certain sleepy foodie. What celestial emperor? In the end, all the work would still be pushed to him. We have enough people in Invincible Sect. If you really can't find anyone, why don't I recommend someone to you? Who? Of course it's Sun Shu. Without hesitation, he betrayed a certain someone for the second time. Didn't he become an immortal emperor recently? What's more, he's a sword immortal. In terms of cultivation, he's not weaker than the celestial emperor, right? Everyone thought about it carefully. That was true. Although there was a huge difference between an immortal emperor and a celestial emperor, sword cultivators were stronger than other cultivators. If he succeeded as celestial emperor, it would definitely convince the masses. But even if Sun Shu succeeded as celestial emperor, he could only take over one continent. Bai Ti reminded them, Sun Shu was only an immortal emperor after all. He could take over one continent, but if he took over the Bo Si and Yi Shui at the same time, the immortals would definitely be unhappy. What about the other continent? Why are you looking at me? Lo Moon rolled his eyes. I've already helped you find one. Can't you guys decide the other one by drawing lots? The celestial emperors fell silent. Just as they were about to recommend a few more people, a loud rumble came from outside the hall. Large amounts of immortal chi surged and filled the entire hall. It was so thick that it almost solidified. Everyone was shocked. One by one, they flew out of the hall. Only then did they realize that the sky had suddenly darkened. Thunderclouds filled the sky. The surrounding immortal chi was surging wildly towards the back of the hall. The oppressive pressure made even the celestial emperor's hearts palpitate. And in the center of the layers of immortal chi, I Ching held a plate of pastries in one hand and a rolling pin in the other. He stood in the center looking lost. I Ching, this is your heavenly tribulation. Lone Moon immediately guessed what was going on. How can this be? I Ching looked up at the sky. Only then did he react. In a flash, he appeared in front of everyone. He hurriedly handed the plate in his hand to Shining. Master, your osmanthus cake. Oh, thank you for your hard work. Shining took it. He immediately turned to look at Lone Moon. Father Niu, got it. Wasn't it just cooking? Every time the heavenly tribulation came, he had to say this. How annoying. Lone Moon immediately waved his hand to chase him away. Hurry up and leave. The lightning is about to strike. It will strike the sect. I Ching nodded. He turned and rode his sword into the distance. He even forgot to put down the rolling pin in his hand. Indeed, in less than 5 minutes, a dazzling bolt of lightning descended from the sky. It struck directly in I Ching's direction. Even the ground shook. Young Emperor I Ching has actually ascended. Congratulations. The celestial emperor's eyes lit up. They exchanged glances. Young Emperor I Ching seems to be a sword immortal too. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Damn it. He still couldn't avoid it. If he had known, he wouldn't have recommended Sun Shu. Young Emperor Lone Moon. It looks like the position of Celestial Emperor Sun Hai. Lone Moon's expression darkened. He pulled out the jade flute from his waist and said seriously, the Celestial Emperors are right. Since the candidates have been chosen, why don't we talk about something else? For example, the cost of your lodging in my invincible sect, water and electricity bills, the service fees for the disciples and so on. With that said, the flute in his hand shook and instantly turned into a white jade abacus. Damn it, you've created so much trouble for me. If I don't skin you alive, my surname isn't Niu. The Celestial Emperors. Chapter 221. I Ching's heavenly tribulation came so suddenly that even he did not notice it. But too many things had happened in the past few years. Breaking the divine bell, fighting on the Emperor Ascension stage, and then the sect war. After fighting so many battles, even he could feel the opportunity to become an immortal emperor. It was normal for I Ching, the cheat, to be able to break through. But for some reason, his lightning tribulation this time seemed to be extra long. And the lightning tribulation in the sky was louder than the one before. Every strike seemed to break through the sky. The heavenly tribulation should have been over in 4 to 5 days, but now it dragged on for half a month. Lone Moon looked at the lightning in the sky and had a bad feeling. After the thunder tribulation, there were 36 desolate lights. However, for some reason, the desolate fire, which should have been fiery red, had turned into a purple heavenly flame. The sky was covered in purple light, and it burned for 6 days and 6 nights. Lone Moon was shocked and silently complained about the cheat. Such a strong heavenly tribulation, and yet he did not use any defensive measures, and just withstood it. A month later, the tribulation clouds in the sky finally dispersed, and I Ching returned. His Dharma robe was torn in several places, and his hair that used to be tied up was loose behind him. It was obviously messy and dispirited, but somehow harmonious. Especially the immortal chi around him was 10 times thicker than before, and just looking at him made one feel a faint pressure of a celestial emperor. Wait, celestial emperor pressure? Lone Moon. Son of AB *TZH. Shening. Huh. I'm ready to talk to you about life now, immediately, right now. Shening. I Ching. ____ I Ching successfully became a celestial emperor and became the Bo-Si emperor. As the human resources director of Invincible Sect, Lone Moon changed his previous attitude of declining and immediately decided to move the whole sect to the heavens beyond heaven, so quickly that the other emperors doubted their ears. To this, Lone Moon rolled his eyes and made a lot of calculations. Nonsense, in the previous sect war, the palaces in the sect were almost destroyed and could not be repaired. Where would they sleep if they did not move? And the only valuable immortal herb in the back mountain had almost died because of Lan Hua's demonic energy array. Therefore, after the disciples were done packing up the storehouse, they only needed to collect the immortal vein in the back mountain. The speed at which they moved was unimaginably fast. In less than an hour, more than 200 disciples had already set off in a grandiose manner. To save trouble, Lone Moon asked Lan Hua to tear open the void and open the teleportation array directly to the Bo-Si Heavenly Palace, in the name of food expenses. Almost instantly, a large group of disciples appeared outside the Bo-Si Heavenly Palace. The immortal official who had just received the news of welcoming the new Celestial Emperor. Greetings, greetings, Celestial Emperor. The immortal official who was guarding the door was stunned for a moment before he reacted. He hurriedly cupped his fists and bowed to I Ching. The titular Celestial Emperor I Ching nodded nonchalantly. After all, he was only in charge of cooking. Lone Moon looked around and frowned. Where are the other immortal officials? Why are you the only one in the Elysium? During the month of I Ching's tribulation, he had crammed all the information about the Bo-Si Heavenly Palace. Normally, there would be at least 6 mystic immortal officials guarding the Heavenly Gate. 2 months ago, the Celestial Emperors had already announced I Ching's succession to the Bo-Si Celestial Emperor to the entire immortal realm, fearing that they would go back on their word. Just half an hour ago, he had also sent a message to the managing immortal official. No matter how fast they came, it was impossible that there would only be one person at the Heavenly Gate to welcome them. The immortal official's face paled. Something flashed across his eyes. He stuttered for a while but could not give a reason. Lone Moon's expression darkened. He released his young emperor's immortal pressure. Where is the managing immortal official in charge of the Heavenly Palace? The immortal official's face paled even more. His legs turned to jelly, and he was about to speak when a smiling voice came from behind. The new Celestial Emperor has arrived. Pao Hui did not go out to welcome him. I hope the Celestial Emperor will not blame me. A person suddenly flew over from the right side of the Heavenly Gate. He had the cultivation of an exalted immortal, and was dressed in the robes of an immortal official. He smiled kindly. He was clearly apologizing, but there was no hint of guilt in his tone. He bowed slightly towards I Ching and smiled even more brightly. I thought that the Celestial Emperor would need at least a month to arrive. I did not expect you to arrive so quickly. Pao Hui was not prepared in advance. I am sorry. He apologized profusely and stepped aside warmly, acting like a host welcoming guests. I will bring the Celestial Emperor to the Heavenly Palace now. It was not just Lone Moon. Even I Ching frowned, but he could not tell what the problem was. You are the managing immortal official in charge of the Heavenly Palace? That's right. The person smiled even more kindly. Where are the others? Pao Hui looked like he was in a difficult position. He did not know where to start. After a while he sighed and said, Sai, you may not know this. Now that the demonic world has appeared, and this place is close to it, we have just lost Celestial Emperor Zichen. The immortal officials are already panicking, and do not dare to stay in the Heavenly Palace. The new Celestial Emperor came in a hurry. I can't gather them in such a short time. Is that so? Lone Moon scanned him from head to toe. and his eyes turned cold. This reason was really reasonable. The smile on Pao Hui's face froze. He subconsciously avoided Lone Moon's gaze and continued to lead the way. New Celestial Emperor, please. Lone Moon did not ask further. He nodded at I Ching and led the group towards the Heavenly Palace. After flying for less than half an hour, Pao Hui suddenly stopped. He pointed at the majestic palace hidden in the clouds and said, "New Celestial Emperor, this is the main hall of the Heavenly Palace. Celestial Emperor Zichen used to discuss matters here." With that, he turned and flew towards the palace behind without waiting for the group to react. He did not look like he was bringing them in. A while later, the same thing happened. New Celestial Emperor, this is the Purple Light Palace. It is where the emperors of the Bo Sea meet. It's a pity that the country emperors did not make it here in time. Please forgive us, Celestial Emperor. New Celestial Emperor, this is the Yuxian Pavilion. It is where the Heavenly Palace plants immortal herbs. But the immortal official guarding the pavilion is not here today. We can't enter for now. When the Celestial Emperor is free, you can come again. New Celestial Emperor, this is... Pao Hui led the group in a circle. It looked like he had visited every place, but he could find a reason to refuse to enter every place. Even a fool could tell that he was unhappy with I Ching, the new Celestial Emperor. Yet he had a smile on his face the whole time. He looked like he was thinking about them. It made them feel very frustrated. Yu Hong and the others wanted to refute him several times, but they were stopped by Lone Moon's eyes, until they reached the innermost side hall. This is the treasure-seeking tower. It is the treasure house of the Bo Sea. It is the most important place in the Bo Sea Heavenly Palace. All the immortal treasures of the Immortal Meridian are here. There is an array set up by Celestial Emperor Zichen. For the sake of the new Celestial Emperor's safety, it is better not to enter. With that said, he was about to turn and lead the group away. Lone Moon, who had been silent the whole way, suddenly stopped him. "Fellow Immortal, you are wrong." Lone Moon smiled. Since it is such an important place, the Celestial Emperor naturally cannot leave it alone. Don't you think so? With that said, he turned to the side. I Ching. The next moment, a white light appeared in I Ching's hand. An immortal sword appeared in his hand. Wait! Pao Hui's expression changed. He wanted to stop him, but it was too late. I Ching raised his hand and waved. A ray of sword chi appeared and attacked the palace that was heavily surrounded by array formations. There was a loud bang. All the array formations broke in an instant. The door of the Immortal Palace opened with a crash. Pao Hui's face was full of disbelief. He did not expect that they would suddenly break the array after a disagreement. Immortal Official. Lone Moon gave him a smile that was even brighter than before. He said word by word. Along the way, the immortals of the various palaces have either skipped work or failed to do their jobs. As the immortal in charge, since you cannot control the immortal officials, why don't you get someone else to do it? Yu Hong, send the immortal officials out of the heavens beyond heaven. Yes. He had lived 2 lives. It had been a long time since someone gave him a knife to show his authority. Very good. This person from the Bo Sea Immortal Palace has successfully attracted my attention. Chapter 222. Monarch. Pao Hui was shocked. He looked at I Ching in disbelief, and could not help but take a step forward. I have been an immortal steward of the Heavenly Palace for tens of thousands of years. Lone Moon laughed coldly and said, "You've been a steward immortal official for tens of thousands of years, yet you can't even control the immortals in the palace. Fellow immortal, you're really capable. It seems like there's no reason why Zichen became a demon." Pao Hui was exasperated. He had been the Celestial Emperor's immortal official for so many years. Even though he was only an exalted immortal, even the emperors of the various countries were extremely polite to him. This was the first time someone had made him speechless. Something flashed in his eyes. He took a deep breath and said mockingly, "This young lord is really funny. What right do you have to punish me? I am an immortal official of the Heavenly Palace. Only the Celestial Emperor can punish me. What's your identity? Those who don't know would think that you're the new emperor." He looked at I Ching provocatively and said, Celestial Emperor. You haven't even said anything, and he wants to expel me from the heavenly palace. Don't you think this arrangement is inappropriate? His words were hinting at Lone Moon to overstep his authority and have wild ambitions. Moreover, ever since he entered the heavenly palace, he had indeed been like that. No celestial emperor could tolerate anyone climbing over his head, except for invincible sect. No. I Ching replied instantly. What was wrong? Even the disciples nodded in bewilderment. Disciple 1. Isn't Elder Lone Moon always the one in charge? Is there a problem? Disciple 2. That's right, Sect Master said that if we follow Elder Lone Moon, we'll have food to eat? Elder I Ching is so busy cooking. Just leave the rest to Elder Lone Moon. The third disciple. Huh? So there was an Elder I Ching in the sect? I just found out. Number 4. What? Wasn't the Celestial Emperor Elder Lone Moon? I always thought it was him. The fifth disciple. Nonsense, the sect leader is clearly the Imperial Emperor. Lone Moon. Pao Hui. +_+. Who the hell were these people? This was the position of the Celestial Arch. Why did they all look as if it was only natural for a young lord to manage the Celestial Palace? Even the Celestial Emperor himself had an expression that said, I still have things to do, and the position of Celestial Emperor can be taken by whoever wants it. W. Yu Hong Siu sent him out. Lone Moon pressed his forehead and scanned the group of troublemakers. Once again, he waved his hand and instructed. Yes. This time, the two of them did not hesitate. Siu went forward and picked him up. She flew towards the entrance of the heavenly palace. Before Pao Hui could react, he was already thrown out of the divine gate. You too. He glared at the two people who flew back without looking back. After a while, he snorted coldly and swung his sleeves. Umph. He was waiting for them to beg him to return. Lone Moon scanned the disciples once more, then waved his hand and said, All of you have heard clearly along the way. The division of labor was the same as before, and everyone went to find their own territory. If there are any problems, find Yu Hong to report them. Dismissed. Yes. Everyone answered in unison, and immediately scattered around excitedly to claim their own territories. I Ching immediately took out pots and pans. Master, I took a look just now. The vast sun hall at the back is not bad. The lighting is good, and it can be seen from the north to the south. It's also big enough to be a kitchen. It just needs to be remodeled. Good job. Shenning nodded in agreement. Let's go. Let's find Boss Lon to make a stove. He's very professional. Then you might have to wait for a while. Lan Hua walked over slowly, carrying a huge flower pot in his hands. Radish was working hard to grow dandelions in it. I promised Brother Radish that I would plant it in the immortal plant garden first. Chef, then let's go make some cold dishes first. That did not need a stove. Yes, Master, no problem, Master. Lone Moon. King retard. Wait. Vast Sun Hall? Could that be the first immortal palace at the entrance of the heavenly palace? They wanted to turn the first immortal palace at the entrance of the heavenly palace into a kitchen. You two come back here. Oh, greater than over equal to. Oh, the entire Bo-Si heavenly palace had hundreds of palaces and countless small immortal palaces. In the past, there were more than 1,000 immortal officials living in them. Lone Moon understood what Pao Hui was thinking. In the past, the heavenly emperors of Bo-Si were all Bo-Si immortals. As an immortal from Feng Song continent, I Ching suddenly became the Bo-Si heavenly emperor. He could be considered a person who came out of nowhere. As the steward of the entire heavenly palace, Pao Hui naturally had the highest authority apart from the heavenly emperor. The reason why he dared to provoke them was that all the immortals in the heavenly palace were now under his control. It was their first time here. It was not easy to take over such a huge heavenly palace, especially when the other party did not cooperate. The only one who could order everyone around was Pao Hui. So in the end, it would definitely come back to him. When he brought everyone to visit the immortal palace previously, the so-called steward who happened to be absent was all arranged by him. He did this not because he wanted to openly oppose I Ching's ascension to the throne, but because he was mentally unbalanced and wanted to vent. This could be seen from the way he kept calling the new celestial emperor but never called I Ching's Dao name. But it was understandable that he was unhappy, but that did not mean that they had to give in to him. Who was not a little princess? Why should they give in to his little temper? Lomun's thinking was very simple. Since you want to skip work, great. Then don't come anymore. Our invincible sect, no, our invincible heavenly palace is very busy. We have no time for your little temper. The other celestial emperors were indeed short of manpower, but the invincible sect was not. Weren't they uncontrollable? Then don't use them. Anyway, they wanted the palace, not the people. What if the place they were in charge of was sealed, and they could not enter? Just break through and enter again. Anyway, body cultivators had more stamina. What if the immortal officials were not willing to hand over power? Just give them a beating. Anyway, they were invincible. What if the immortal officials went on strike? Just fire them. They were not familiar with them anyway. Keeping them would be a waste of immortal stones. Someone had to tell them who was the boss. As for not having immortal officials familiar with diplomatic work, what if they lost contact with other continents? Haha, they did not dare. They had all the stewards for pills, talismans, arrays, and artifact spirits. They could even produce their own. Whoever was in charge of the invincible sect in the past would still be in charge now. At most, the scale would be larger. So Lomun did not worry much. In less than half a month, the disciples had already taken over the entire immortal palace on their own accord. They were on the right track at an unimaginable speed. They even casually subdued some small immortal officials who went with the flow to do odd jobs. And Pao Hui, who had been confidently leading a group of high-ranking immortal officials, who applied for leave, and waiting for news of the new celestial emperor. Not only did he not receive news of internal strife in the heavenly palace, he only received news of one immortal official, after another being chased out of the heavenly palace. Until a month later, everyone could not take it anymore. They all went to the heavenly palace to find out more, only to find that none of them could enter. The immortal officials guarding the gate were also replaced with immortals they did not know. They directly chased everyone out. They almost started fighting. Everyone looked at the gate in confusion. The words "invincible heavenly palace." They could not react for a long time. Only then did they realize that things were out of their control. This new celestial emperor was different from what they had imagined. He really did not seem to be afraid of their threats at all. And they also received a shocking piece of news. Celestial Emperor I Ching of the Bo Sea would be holding the sky-bearing grand ceremony in the invincible heavenly palace in 5 days. And they, who should have received the news first, only found out now. Manager Pao, what should we do? Everyone was really panicking. They did not even know about such a big thing. It looked like they were really excluded from the heavenly palace. Pao Hui's expression darkened. After a moment of silence, he gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go. Follow me to the various states of the Bo Sea." Chapter 223. 4 days later, the day before the sky-bearing grand ceremony, Elder Lomun, a disciple, flew into the main hall and bowed with cupped fists. "The 15 country emperors of the Bo Sea are here. They are quite early." He thought they would not come. Lomun raised his eyebrows. "Just make the arrangements. They are not here to celebrate the ascension. They said they have urgent matters to see Celestial Emperor I Ching." The disciple frowned and said awkwardly, "Oh, what matters do they have?" Lomun put down the schedule. "They said they are here for some cannon fodder?" Pao Hui. "Oh right. They said that the way they handled him previously was biased. So they came together to ask the Celestial Emperor to retract his order." The disciple himself was confused. "I didn't expect this Pao Hui to be so capable." Lomun laughed coldly. He actually managed to persuade 15 country emperors to come together. But it was useless. "Let's settle this. Where's Chef?" "Elder Chef. I Ching, Celestial Emperor, is cooking in the back hall." The disciple changed his words several times. "Let Shining call him, and tell him to handle it according to what we said before." Lomun waved his hand, and continued to work on his abacus. Tomorrow was the day I Ching officially became the Celestial Emperor. All the radishes from all the continents would come. He was still waiting to collect his debts. He had no time to care about those hypocrites. Yes. The disciple immediately left and ran to find Shunning excitedly in the front hall of the main hall. Since the disciple left, the country emperors had already waited for 4 hours, but the celestial emperor did not appear. They could not help but feel even angrier when they heard Pao Hui say that the new celestial emperor did not care about the immortals. They did not believe it. They came this time with the intention of testing the new celestial emperor. Now it seemed that he was indeed a little arrogant. In the past, no matter how busy celestial emperor Zichun was, he still cared about them. He had never made them wait for so long. He did not even serve them a cup of tea. Before meeting, the country emperors were already disgusted by the new celestial emperor. Although their cultivation was below the celestial emperor, and they were dependent on the Wuxia, but the countries had always been independent. Even if a new celestial emperor had cultivation, it would be very difficult for him to intervene. Moreover, this was a special period. However, no one dared to leave in a huff. After waiting for another hour, they saw the disciple who had reported earlier return. He said that he was going to bring them to meet the god monarch. After he was done, he turned around and flew into the distance, looking like he was in a hurry. The country emperors exchanged glances and had no choice but to follow. However, he found that he was flying further and further away from the heavenly palace's territory. He came to a relatively remote celestial realm. Just as everyone was beginning to suspect that this disciple was up to no good, she stopped and pointed to the front. "Che, Celestial Emperor is waiting for you inside." After saying that, he turned around and flew back, even more hurriedly than before. The country emperors were stunned. They looked at the floating rocks in front of them and saw a person standing on a huge rock in the middle. He was dressed in white and gave off celestial chi. He looked at the crowd coldly and frowned as if he was a bit unhappy. Even though he was trying to restrain it, everyone still felt an oppressive immortal pressure. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and they subconsciously took a step back. They naturally recognized this new emperor. He was the one who beat them up when they attacked Invincible Sect. Emperor Yi Qing. One of the country emperors took a deep breath and stepped forward to greet him. However, he was interrupted by the person opposite him. "Cut the crap." He grabbed something in his hand and pointed it at the crowd. "Do it." After he finished speaking, he seemed to realize that something was wrong. He retracted his hand. A white light flashed, and the item in his hand turned into an immortal sword. Sword chi filled the air. Everyone. What did he mean? Did he want to fight with them? They didn't want to fight. They just wanted to reason with him. And wasn't he holding a spatula in his hand just now? It was definitely true. This was the second time they saw it. Was it too late to change now that they realized something was wrong? Straight face. Wait. The country emperor shouted. "We are here to reason with him." Yi Qing frowned impatiently. In an instant, he created a sky full of swords and pointed them at the crowd. He answered seriously. "I'm being reasonable. Master said that having a strong fist was the most important thing." With that said, he rushed over without waiting for the people opposite him to react. 15 minutes later, the country emperors who fell into a pile. Pao Hui, F*CKU. What happened to avoiding that person called Lone Moon and meeting the celestial emperor directly? The next day, the sky-bearing grand ceremony. As the continent closest to the demon realm, the Wuxia could only be described with one word in the eyes of the entire celestial realm: cold. Even though the demon realm was still peaceful, and the Wuxia had a new celestial emperor, the immortals felt that it was useless. They were most likely forced to take the blame. One day, this place would become the battlefield between the two realms. Not only the other continents, even the immortals in the Wuxia thought so. But what surprised the immortals was that on the day of this new celestial emperor's sky-bearing grand ceremony, all the other celestial emperors of the celestial realm were present. All of them had prepared lavish gifts. The gifts piled up on the immortal boats looked like they were going to empty out the other 9 celestial palaces. And the celestial emperors didn't just send people over. Instead, they all went to congratulate him personally. Even the emperors, who had been beaten black and blue the day before, were dumbfounded by this action. They naturally knew that this new celestial emperor was recommended by the other celestial emperors. They had seen his capabilities that day at Invincible Sect. That swordsmanship, that cultivation. Even though he was only a young emperor back then, it was already very shocking. Yesterday's battle made them completely lose the will to resist. The number one sword immortal in the celestial realm? No. It wouldn't even be an exaggeration to call him the number one celestial emperor in the celestial realm. But this didn't change the fact that they, like the other immortals, thought that he was just a scapegoat pushed by the other celestial emperors to temporarily stop the demon realm from invading the celestial realm. That was why they dared to look down on this new celestial emperor. But looking at the current situation, it seemed that the celestial emperors didn't mean that. And not only to celestial emperor I Ching, but even to the 200 over disciples he brought with him. They were extremely polite and tolerant. Unfamiliar with the terrain, no one to lead the way, no problem. They could just wait 2 or 3 days and treat it as cultivation. The immortal palace arranged for them was too small for them to stay in, no problem. They could squeeze and sleep on the floor. The journey was long and they were thirsty, no problem. They had water elemental immortals, they could do it themselves. The heavenly palace was understaffed, no problem. We brought a lot of people, don't stand on ceremony. So everyone realized that the people in the entire immortal palace were all immortal officials from other heavenly palaces. As if the one ascending to the throne today was their celestial emperor. Even, just in time, that chicken is here. Chu Xian immediately went over. Little Red, what's the matter? The West Palace's array formation was broken by a disciple a few days ago. There's a big hole in the palace. I need to go and fix it, I'm too busy. No problem, leave it to me. With that said, she picked up a piece of wood beside her and flew away out of habit. The country emperors sitting together in the main hall. Were these really the high and mighty celestial emperors? Why were those disciples so familiar with ordering them around? And what was with that satisfied and excited expression, as if he had received some kind of reward? They must have opened their eyes in the wrong way. Chapter 224. The entire heavenly worship ceremony was a joyous and harmonious scene. The more the country emperors sat, the more confused they became. Most of the people who were busy outside were immortal officials from other continents. And from time to time, someone would come in and ask 1 or 2 celestial emperors for help. Slowly, only the country emperors who had nothing to do were left in the hall. For a moment, everyone was restless, feeling that something was not right. They looked at each other for a long time, sitting in this strange mood for a few hours before the ceremony finally began. Celestial Emperor I Ching finally came in. Behind him were the celestial emperors who had just gone out to help, as well as the young emperor called Lone Moon that Pao Hui mentioned. He seemed to be very familiar with the celestial emperors, and as he walked, he chatted happily with the celestial emperors beside him. Only when the celestial emperors returned to their seats did the country emperors heave a sigh of relief. For a moment, they did not look up to care about what they were saying, except for some congratulatory words. Only the young emperor called Lone Moon replied the whole time. Celestial Emperor I Ching did not say a single word. The strange thing was that this seemed very rude, but the celestial emperors did not feel that there was anything wrong with it, as if this was normal. The country emperors could not say anything. They touched the wounds on their bodies, feeling angry and worried. This new celestial emperor was obviously unmoved by force or persuasion. Their days in the future would not be so easy. Originally, when I Ching fought against the various continents' country emperors in the Invincible Sect, there would always be 1 or 2 who were unhappy with him. Taking advantage of this ceremony, they wanted to add oil to the fire and take the opportunity to vent their anger. But they did not expect that not only were all celestial emperors, their warm attitude was not like that of a celestial emperor, but more like that of a little immortal official from the Invincible Palace. Their hopes were dashed, and they could not say anything until it suddenly darkened outside. The heavenly palace, which was originally filled with immortal chi, suddenly had a gust of cold wind, and the next moment the sky darkened. A black aura came from the heavenly gate, And even the country emperors could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. "This is demonic qi," one of the country emperors exclaimed, and the originally bustling hall fell silent. Everyone turned to look, and indeed, a large amount of demonic qi was flying over, and a disciple hurried in to report. "Reporting to Sect Master, the Demon King and the 10 Skyfiends have arrived." Demon King! The people in the hall all took a deep breath, and the 10 celestial emperors' faces changed. They looked nervously at the large area of devil qi outside. Even young Emperor Lone Moon, who had been smiling, frowned. A moment later, he waved his hand and said, "Let them in." Why was he here too? The Demon King had actually come. The various monarchs' expressions tightened at first, then their eyes lit up. Joy surged from the bottom of their hearts, and they instantly felt as though they had vented their frustrations. Heavenly Emperor succeeding the throne, the fiend race running over. This was clearly a demonstration of force. The Bo-Si was near the demon realm, and it was a big day in the celestial realm. Now that the Demon King came personally, it would be strange if there was no conflict. So what if Emperor I Ching was on good terms with the other celestial emperors? No matter how powerful he was, he couldn't stop the entire demon world alone. At that time, it would be the country emperors like them who would be helping to protect the Bo-Si. Not only did he not treat them well in front of the enemy, he even used them to establish his dominance. Let's see what he can do now. The country emperors instantly felt a sense of exaltation. They looked forward to the new celestial emperor making a fool of himself and regaining some of the face they had lost. They couldn't help but look at the 10 black figures walking out of the demonic qi at the door. They saw them walk quickly through the door, walk quickly into the hall, and then they all knelt down in the hall. The country emperors. The celestial emperors. What the hell? For all. The little king of the demon realm leads the 10 Skyfiends to greet the exalted goddess. The Demon King cupped his fists and bowed deeply to the person in front of him 3 times. The Skyfiends following behind him also bowed to the ground in unison, their attitude as respectful as it could be. "Hey, little black!" Shening, who was busy nibbling on a fruit, raised her hand and greeted. "Do you want to sit?" She turned to look, only to find that there were no empty chairs beside her. "Thank you, exalted goddess. I'm fine standing, very fine." The Demon King chuckled, then got up and stood to the side obediently. The 10 Skyfiends behind him were also like quails, quickly standing behind him, not even daring to raise their heads. The atmosphere in the hall instantly became a little strange. The Demon King's standing seemed to have triggered some kind of punishment mechanism. So, the celestial emperors also stood up. Since the Demon King had already stood up, in order to show that the immortal and demon realms were on good terms, they had to stand up as well. Then the country emperors also stood up. Since the celestial emperors had already stood up, they had to stand up as well. Then the congratulatory immortals stood up. Since the celestial emperors had already stood up, they had to stand up as well. For a moment, the entire hall was filled with people standing up, except for a certain person who had been sitting at the very top, nibbling on a fruit and never stopping. The entire hall reverberated with the sound of crunching, chewing. 3 minutes later, perhaps because the situation was too awkward, the Demon King was afraid of dampening the exalted goddess's mood, so he spoke up. "We rushed over as soon as we received the news. I am here to congratulate the exalted goddess on becoming an emperor." The Demon King smiled even more brightly, his face full of sincere praise. The exalted goddess really deserves this position. Under the leadership of the exalted goddess, the Bo-Si will definitely become better and better. If there is anything in the future, the demon realm will be at the exalted goddess's disposal. We will go to. I say, Little Black. Shening interrupted. Little Black is here. The one becoming the celestial emperor is not me. She pointed to the person beside her and said, "It's Chef, Little Black." All the celestial emperors. All the country emperors. He didn't even know who the celestial emperor was. And he just came over to suck up to her. Was the demon realm so shameless? All the country emperors felt that this plot was a little surreal. Wait, all the country emperors looked confused. Who was the person sitting at the top? Wasn't the celestial emperor I Ching? When did she sit there? Why was I Ching standing behind her and looking so natural? Why did everyone in the hall turn a blind eye to her? As if there was no problem with this arrangement at all. The key was, why did they only realize now that the person sitting at the top was her, and not I Ching? Congratulations, Celestial Emperor Chef, on inheriting the throne. Little Black changed his tone and immediately said, the Celestial Emperor Chef really deserves this position. Under the leadership of the Celestial Emperor, the Bo Si will definitely become better and better. If there is anything in the future, the demon realm will be at the exalted goddess's disposal. We will go through fire and water without hesitation. Shening, I Ching, Celestial Emperors and Country Emperors. Too shameless. This guy changed it at the last minute, right? Even the lines he said were exactly the same. And what Celestial Emperor Chef? He didn't even know the other party's name. Are you sure the demon realm isn't here to be funny? All the country emperors faintly felt that there was a sound of something collapsing in their minds. Instantly, they felt that the great war between immortals and demons might never happen again. They should just go back and be honest immortals in the future. To hell with Pao Rui. It was all his fault. The entire heavenly consecration ceremony ended in an exceptionally harmonious atmosphere. Until they left, all the country emperors were confused. They didn't know if it was because of the crowd's attitude, but they didn't dare to show the slightest bit of dissatisfaction in front of I Ching. All of them tucked their tails between their legs and became immortals. The entire Bo Si was originally under the jurisdiction of the Celestial Emperor. They must be crazy to believe Pao Rui's words and think that the situation in Bo Si would be different now. Chapter 225. Late at night, back palace kitchen. Exalted Goddess. I found out what you asked me to investigate previously. The Demon King lowered his voice and said seriously. So fast. Lo Moon turned back in surprise. How is it? Young Emperor's guess was right. The former Demon King might really still be alive. The Demon King nodded. I sent 10 Skyfiends to scout around the demon world. Indeed, many demons claim to have seen his tracks. Lone Moon frowned. Ever since he saw that damned demonic book, he guessed that the person behind the scenes, even if it was not the former Demon King, was closely related to him. Where is he? I don't know yet. The Demon King shook his head. I only heard some rumors, but the location is very complicated. There is no accurate address at all. I also interrogated those demons who were hiding in the immortal world. According to them, the former Demon King has lost contact with them for hundreds of thousands of years. They don't even know that the Demon King of the demon world has changed. Even that Skyfiend called Zichun. This was difficult. Loman's frown deepened. If even Little Black could not find him, then the others would not be able to. Then how did you become the Demon King? Shunning suddenly asked. The Demon King faltered. He did not understand why she asked that, but still answered honestly. I defeated the former Demon King, so naturally I am the new Demon King. He said with some pride. The demons were always simple and violent. Whoever was strong was the Demon King. Back then, I beat him up like a grandson. I thought he was dead. I didn't think he. That means you were the last person to see him. Shening said. Huh. The Demon King was stunned. Loman's eyes brightened. He pulled Little Black over and asked, where did you fight? Near the joyous melody abyss in the demon world, the Demon King replied. The Demon King replied, at that time, our cultivation levels were equal, and we fought for 7 to 8 days. In the end, I used all my strength to disperse his demon spirit, and he fell into the joyous melody abyss. He shouldn't have survived. Could he be hiding there? Where is the joyous melody abyss? If he guessed correctly, the former Demon King had deliberately faked his death. The joyous melody abyss is in the easternmost part of the demon world. It's near the border. They had chosen to fight there because they were afraid of destroying the demon world. Let's go now and take a look there. All right. The Demon King nodded. Just as the two of them were about to leave the house. Have a safe trip. A familiar voice sounded behind him. Loman's footsteps faltered as he walked out of the door. His face darkened. He turned around and picked up a certain someone who was still slumped on the chair. You go too. But master, she. And you. He turned to look at a certain someone who was holding a plate of flavored prawns. I Ching. Master hasn't even eaten supper yet? Shunning. Damn it. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have said anything. Little Black. This young Lord Lone Moon seemed to be even more powerful than Exalted Goddess. He had one more thigh to cling to. 3 days later, in the demon world's joyous Lulin Abyss. The reason why the joyous Melody Valley was called this was because there were many narrow valleys there, especially one that was so deep that one could not see the bottom. It would take 4 to 6 hours to reach the bottom of the valley. Moreover, there was a strong wind in the valley. Every time the wind blew, the entire valley would resound with all kinds of echoes. It was like a piece of music reverberating in the valley. Hence the name, Joyful Melody Valley. This was the border of the demon realm. Further east was the land of nothingness. The demonic chi here was thin, and it was a barren land. There were no signs of human habitation within a radius of 1,000 miles. There had never been any demons who set foot here. Back then, the Demon King thought that the former Demon King Zhan Ting was dead because he had destroyed his demon spirit and knocked him into the deepest valley. But from the looks of it now, this is what you meant by uninhabited? The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. He pointed at the demonic city in front of them, which was even larger than the invincible palace. Uninhabited, my *s. Wasn't there a freaking demonic city at the bottom of this valley? These densely packed figures, if they weren't demons, could they be immortals? The Demon King was also confused. He didn't know that there was such a huge demonic city at the bottom of this valley. I don't know what's going on either. The Demon King stared at the demonic city in front of him. His legs turned to jelly as he hurriedly hugged Xinying's thigh. Exalted Goddess, listen to my explanation. If I really knew, I wouldn't have brought you here. All right. Lone Moon sighed. Look at how useless he was. Did he become the Demon King by acting cute? Let's go into the city and take a look. It looks like that Zhan Ting is most likely in this city. Wait. Seeing that they were about to enter the city, the Demon King hurriedly took out a few black talismans. Exalted Goddess, these are the demon gathering talismans that I prepared. They can gather demonic chi around your body. This way, other people won't be able to see the immortal chi on your body. When immortals entered the demonic city, they were like lighted lamps. Any demon would be able to see through them at one glance. If that Zhan Ting was really in the city, it would be easy to alert the enemy. Thank you. The three of them took the talismans and Lone Moon immediately stuck them on his body. Indeed, very quickly, like the Demon King, his body was instantly surrounded by some black demonic chi. Xinying looked at it curiously and imitated the two of them, slapping the talismans on her chest. In the next moment, wisps of black chi seemed to be attracted by something and gathered over. The strange thing was that the demonic chi didn't surround her body tightly like Lone Moon and I Ching. Instead, it stopped 1 meter away from Xinying. As if it was afraid of something, it didn't dare to move forward and could only circle around 1 meter away from her. In a short while, it wrapped her up into a 1 meter radius black egg. It's done. Xinying looked up. Done my ass. The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. This was even more freaking obvious than before when there was no demonic chi. Are you blind? Where exactly did you see that it's done? Is so troublesome. Xinying sighed. How about Little Black? Give me another talisman. All right. The Demon King immediately handed over another talisman. Without hesitation, Xinying directly slapped it on her chest. Then, the egg became even bigger. I Ching. Lone Moon. Little Black. What the hell? Why didn't even the demonic chi dare to go near Xinying? Were all things in the demonic world so cowardly? Lone Moon took a deep breath before going forward and pulling off the 2 talismans on Xinying's chest. The demonic chi egg disappeared instantly. You don't have to stick it on anymore. Anyway, with her little presence, it would be difficult for others to find her. Oh. Also, after we enter the city, we'll find a place to rest. You and Chef stay there and don't move. Wait for us to come back, all right? Oh, where are you guys going? What else? A ball of anger surged in Lonman's chest. Aren't we here to find the whereabouts of the former Demon King Zhan Ting? Of course we're going to find out. Oh, is that useful? We have to try even if it's useless. Do you think Zhan Ting is a pie that will fall from the sky if we don't look for him? Thump! Before he could finish, a figure suddenly fell from the sky and landed at the feet of the four of them. Instantly, a 1-meter deep human-shaped hole was formed. A man in black was lying in the hole, his entire body twitching. He turned around and revealed a handsome face. Zhan Ting, Little Black exclaimed. Yo, the Demon King really fell from the sky. Lone Moon, I Ching. Chapter 226. La, help me. Zhan Ting reached out a trembling hand from the bottom of the pit. The four of them looked at each other. Little Black then took a step forward and reached out to drag him out from the bottom of the pit. Then he tied him up tightly. What are you trying to do? Zhan Ting was tied up like a dumpling. Only then did he realize that something was wrong. He glared at them. Who are you? I'm warning you. Let me go now or you'll suffer. Zhan Ting, you're indeed still alive. Little Black glanced at him. Not only that, his cultivation level did not decrease by much. You. Zhan Ting glanced at him. Then his eyes widened. Li Yin, what are you doing here? His expression turned cold and he said warily, I've already given you the position of Demon King. What else do you want? Pooey. Little Black glared at him. I clearly won the position of Demon King with my own abilities. Who wants you to give it to me? Then why did you tie me up? I'm just an ordinary demon living in seclusion, in the joyful Melody Valley. I'm not a threat to you. Don't worry. I won't do anything to you. It's just that the exalted goddess wants to ask you a few questions about the past. He said seriously. You better answer honestly. Exalted goddess. Zhan Ting was stunned. Then he looked at the others. What questions? It's about the time you wanted to send people to open the gates of the demon realm. Lone Moon took a step forward and said in a low voice. Zhan Ting frowned. Then he nodded and said, All right, I have nothing to hide anyway. Ask whatever you want to know. But I have something urgent to attend to now. You have to let me go back first. The few of them were silent for a while. They turned to look at the demon city not far away and hesitated. Don't worry. Zhan Ting rolled his eyes. I won't escape. The demons in the city have no fighting spirit. They won't be able to hurt you. Everyone looked at each other. Little Black then untied him and cast a spell to prevent him from escaping. Then, they followed him into the city. After the few of them entered the city, they finally understood why Zhan Ting said that the demons in the city would not be able to hurt them. Because they were weak, they were simply too weak. Along the way, the devils they met on the streets were all ordinary little devils. The highest cultivation was only at the 4th or 5th rank, not to mention the Sky Devil level. Even a Xian immortal would be able to wipe them out, let alone the fact that the weakest among them was a young lord. Everyone was a little surprised. They didn't expect that such a large demon city would be filled with low-level demons. Zhan Ting walked very quickly, as if he was really in a hurry to do something. As he walked, he urged them, Aya, you guys should walk faster. It'll be too late if you're late. The few of them were dumbfounded. They followed him all the way to a tall palace hall before stopping. Unlike the black buildings in the city, this palace was actually white. Zhan Ting seemed to be extremely familiar with this place, as he led the few of them into the back door. Straight face, after passing through a backyard filled with all kinds of unknown flowers and a clear pond, he finally arrived in front of a small building at the back. The small building was very exquisite. The building was filled with white muslin, and wisps of white aura swept past from time to time. This is... Lone Moon was shocked. He looked at the aura around him in disbelief. Yes, immortal chi. I Ching nodded. There was actually immortal chi in the demon city. Before they could be shocked, Zhan Ting walked forward quickly and stopped in front of the small building. Then, without any hesitation, he knelt in front of the door and shouted loudly, "Wife, your husband was wrong. I shouldn't have disobeyed you and wandered around instead of cultivating. I shouldn't have fought with little demons and bullied the weak. I shouldn't have ignored my duties and only wanted to stay in your house. I shouldn't have wanted to kill the little demon next door, just because he looked at you. I'm really wrong. I won't dare to do it again. On account that I've knelt outside for 3 days. Can you let me in?" Shening. I Ching. Lone Moon. Little Black. What the hell? It turned out that he had rushed back in such a hurry just to apologize to his wife. Wife. Zhan Ting was already scratching the door anxiously. He howled loudly, and his words were numbing. "I haven't seen you for 3 days. My heart is breaking. It's all my fault. Just let me in, okay? I promise I won't do it again. Just come out and see me, alright?" Before he finished speaking, a gust of immortal chi suddenly came from inside the house. It controlled the white muslin downstairs and whipped it towards Zhan Ting. With a loud slap, he was sent flying back into the courtyard and even rolled twice. A clear palm print appeared on his originally handsome face. Zhan Ting was not angry. Instead, his eyes lit up as if he had received a great reward. He climbed up excitedly and pounced towards the door. "Wife, you're finally willing to care about me. I knew that you still care about me. As long as you can forgive me, feel free to hit me." With that said, he raised the other half of his face and moved closer. Everyone. King retard. Instantly, they understood who the person in the house was and why there was immortal chi here. 2 words appeared in their minds, Cui Hua. "Is there anyone else?" A cold female voice suddenly came from inside the house. Zhan Ting was stunned. As if he just remembered that there were people following behind him. He turned and glared at them before answering. "It's just some people who are unwilling to give up." Wife. Just as he was about to explain, the door creaked open. In an instant, an immortal aura, that was even denser than before, flowed out from the inside. A figure slowly walked out. She was dressed in white, and her hair was as black as ink. Her expression was a little cold, but her beauty was astonishing. Like an orchid in an empty valley, she gave people an inexplicable sense of holiness. She seemed to be the most perfect masterpiece of the heavens. No one could find a single flaw. The 4 people present were all stunned. They had seen many beauties before, but it was the first time they had seen someone so beautiful. Even Shening, who was a woman, was shocked. Wife. Zhan Ting instantly stuck towards the person inside the house like a soft worm. However, when he was swept by the other party's cold gaze, he froze on the spot and looked aggrieved. "I said, don't appear in front of me again." The woman's brows furrowed slightly. "Wife, I was really wrong." Zhan Ting looked like he was about to cry. "Please forgive me. I promise to listen to you in the future. I will definitely not pester you in the morning. I will stop as many times as you want me to." Before he could finish speaking, the woman's expression darkened. She waved her hand and conjured a wind spell, sweeping him up and throwing him out. Zhan Ting instantly turned into a black dot in the sky and disappeared in the courtyard. Shening. I Ching. Lone Moon. Little Black. Did they just hear some sexual content? Chapter 227. You're from the immortal world? The woman looked at the crowd in surprise. She frowned and asked worriedly, "Why did you come to the demon realm?" The few of them were stunned for a moment. They did not expect that she would be able to see through their identity at a glance. Immediately, they turned their heads to look at her. What kind of lousy talisman was this? Little Black. What does this have to do with me? I don't know how she could tell. You don't have to be nervous. I mean you no harm. As if sensing their concerns, the woman explained, I just didn't expect that there would be other immortals in the demon realm other than myself. She made a hand seal, as though she was dispelling some sort of technique. In an instant, the immortal chi around her body became even denser, as though it was about to materialize. Heavenly Varch, Lone Moon exclaimed. He did not expect that she would actually have celestial emperor cultivation. No wonder she could see through their identities. Perhaps you have heard of me. She sighed and gave them a kind smile. She said in a low voice, I am Zhuohua. the Bo-Si Celestial Emperor. I Ching. Shening. Little Black. Bo. See. The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. He pointed to Chef beside him and said, "What a coincidence. He's also the Bo-Si Celestial Emperor." Also, what happened to Cui Hua? How did it become Zhuo Hua? Was Zhan Ting illiterate? Zhuo Hua was shocked. She didn't react until Lone Moon and I Ching took off the talismans in front of their chests. She sighed. After leaving the immortal realm for so many years, I didn't expect the Bo-Si to have a new celestial emperor. Not only that, but it had been changed twice. Celestial Emperor Zhuo Hua. Lone Moon stepped forward. Why are you in the demon realm? Could it be Zhan Ting? Well, not all of them. She frowned, as if she was unwilling to go into details. She invited them to sit at the side before she slowly said, "How did you enter the demon world? The demon realm has long been sealed, so it should be impossible for immortals to reach it." The few of them fell silent for a moment. Lone Moon then said in a low voice, "Don't you know that the immortal realm and the demonic realm have merged into one?" What? Zhuo Hua was shocked. She stood up abruptly and clenched her fists. How could this happen? As expected, the demon race is not worthy of trust. Back then, it was to stop the invasion of the demon world. Who would have thought that the current demon king is also a wolf with wild ambitions? It will definitely trigger a war between the two worlds. Just as she finished speaking, Xiao Hei's legs went soft, and he almost fell off the chair. Hey, don't talk nonsense. How am I a wolf with wild ambitions? I didn't do anything, okay? Damn it. What if the exalted goddess misunderstood? He turned around and hugged Xinying's thigh. Exalted goddess, the merger of the two realms has nothing to do with me. You have to believe me. Get lost. His snot was all over his legs. You're the demon king. Zhuo Hua was shocked. Only now did she recognize Xiao Hei. That's right. I'm the demon king Xiao Hei, the embodiment of love and justice. My greatest interest in life is peace, the kind that is pure and kind. If anyone dares to start a war between immortals and demons, I will fight them. Exalted goddess, please look at my pure eyes. Lollipop, Lone Moon. I Ching. You're a demon king, can't you have some integrity? This is so embarrassing. I really want to pretend that I don't know this fellow. Zhuo Hua. Isn't the new demon king called Li Yin? Did he change it too? Cough that. Lone Moon coughed and kicked the demon king to the side. Don't worry, the immortal and demon realms have already reconciled. There won't be a war between the two realms. As long as Shening was around, traveling between the immortal and demon realms would be as easy as traveling in a mirror. How can it be? She was shocked, and did not look like she had recovered from her shock. The immortals and demons had been at odds for a long time. Both sides had always been at each other's throats. She did not expect that there would be a day when they would reconcile. Celestial Emperor Zhuo Hua. We're here this time because of the gate to the demonic realm. We have some questions to ask the former demon king Zhan Ting. Lone Moon hesitated for a moment, but still told her their purpose. The gate to the demonic realm? Zhuo Hua frowned. Lone Moon thought that she would not agree easily. After all, her staying in the demon realm must have something to do with Zhan Ting. He thought for a moment and added, "We feel that the merging of the immortal and demon realms this time has something to do with the gate to the demonic realm that Zhan Ting left in the immortal realm, so..." All right. Surprisingly, she agreed immediately. She turned to look at the door and said coldly, "Get in here." "All right, I'm coming. Zhan Ting instantly flashed in from outside the door and smiled brightly. "Madam, you're finally willing to see me. I knew that your heart is still aching." "Shut up." "Oh." Zhan Ting immediately turned into an aggrieved quail. Zhuo Hua seemed to be too lazy to care about him. She turned to look at them. "Please ask whatever you want." With that said, she glared at Zhan Ting. "Answer them properly." "All right, madam, no problem, madam." Zhan Ting immediately stood up straight. He was as obedient as he could be. He turned to look at them, but his expression changed instantly. He returned to his domineering demon king appearance. It was a seamless change. "What is it?" "Ask quickly, I'm busy." Everyone. The demon realm was indeed a place without integrity. Lone Moon was the first to react. He asked in a low voice. We want to know that the gates to the demon realm were created by you. How did you know that opening the gates at the Emperor Ascension stage would cause the two realms to merge? And the one who pulled Xining and I into this world, was it you? What Emperor Ascension stage? The merging of the two realms? Zhang Ting looked confused. The gates to the demon realm were indeed created by me. When the demon realm was sealed, Cui Hua and I were separated by two realms. That was why I took advantage of the loosening of the seal to send the demons under me to the immortal realm, and set up the gates to the demon realm, at a specific location in the Bo Sea. Bo Sea? Lone Moon was shocked. He suddenly had a bad feeling. Could it be? That's right. Zhang Ting nodded and said with some pride. Cui Hua was the celestial emperor of the Bo Sea at that time. Of course the gates had to be set up there. That gate was actually just a special teleportation array, and it had to be assembled to be useful. That was why once the gates were set up, I activated the array and brought her over. Ha ha ha. Holy shit. Indeed, this outcome was not surprising at all. What was going on? Then why did the demons you sent all think that the gates to the demon realm were a passageway that connected the two realms? Otherwise, Zichen would not have tried so hard to open the gates. Oh, that was because I lied to them. Zhang Ting answered calmly. If he did not make a big fuss, who would be willing to help him find a wife in the immortal realm? Actually, that gate could not be opened at all. Everyone. Damn it, he was too shameless. So the so-called plan to invade the immortal realm was just a scam to find a wife? Suddenly, they wanted to light a candle for the demons who had been hiding in the immortal realm for so many years, just to open the gates to the demon realm. Such a henpecked man could not be the mastermind, definitely. Back then, I was indeed teleported to this realm by the demonic gate. Zhuohua stepped forward and explained. That gate had a disguise spell on it, but it was really just a teleportation array, and after it was teleported once, it should have lost its effect. Lone Moon fell silent, his frown deepening. They had seen the gates to the demon realm twice. That was clearly a passageway that connected the two realms, and then it directly merged the two realms. But there was no need for Zhang Ting to lie to them. If the gates to the demon realm were really just a teleportation array, then something must have happened along the way. But who could have tampered with the gates to the demon realm? And these demonic gates were only set up in the Bo Sea. But the first time they saw them, they were at Feng Tsang's invincible sect. They kept feeling that this matter was getting more and more complicated. All the clues from before came to an abrupt end here. For a moment, everyone was silent. Chef, do you have a pen and paper? Shening suddenly spoke. This? I Ching faltered. After a while, he took out a piece of white cloth and a bowl of black liquid. Master, will brocade and soy sauce do? He only brought these. Will do. She took them and placed them on the table. What are you doing? Lone Moon asked curiously. Shening did not answer. I Ching had already conjured a brush and passed it over. Only then did she start drawing on the brocade. After a while, she put down the brush and pointed to the pattern on it. Have you seen this before? Everyone looked down and saw a crooked pendant drawn on the white cloth. It looked like a jade pendant. The style was also very ordinary, but there was a strange pattern drawn in the center of the jade. Zhang Ting's eyes widened. This pattern is... Chapter 228. Godfiend's Seal. Little Black exclaimed before Zhang Ting could finish his sentence. What Godfiend's Seal? Lone Moon frowned and asked anxiously. The Godfiend's Seal is the contract seal of my race. Little Black explained. This seal will only appear when one swears on his own demon spirit and makes a contract with the demon Tao. Just like an immortal's heavenly Tao oath, once it is made, the contract will be protected by the God Fiend and must be completed. Otherwise, this seal will make the person who made the contract pay a greater price. But the God Fiend contract cannot be made unless one is a Sky Fiend or above. Otherwise the God Fiend will not respond. Contract. Lone Moon looked at the picture on the jade pendant carefully. Shening, where did you see this picture? Wait. This jade pendant can't be the one Hui Ling wore on her neck back then, right? Yes. Shenning nodded. Shit. It was true. You think. The person who gave Hui Ling this jade pendant made a godfiend contract with her. That's why he could pull you into the middle realm? It's not a contract. Shenning tilted her head and said, it's the person himself. Huh. What do you mean? He did not react for a moment. What Ben? Godfiend? You're saying that this jade pendant was given to Hui Ling by the godfiend? He stood up abruptly and looked at Shenning in shock. The rest of the people present were also shocked. Yes. Shenning nodded calmly and turned to look at I Ching. Did you bring fruits? She felt that something was missing. Yes. I Ching reflexively took out his storage bag. That's impossible. Little Black shook his head forcefully. Exalted Goddess, the God Fiend is the ancestor of my race. The demon world, and the entire demon race were created by him. He is in existence like the heavenly Tao, or even the god of creation. He has always appeared in legends. No one knows if he really exists. Even if he exists, why would he give such a jade pendant to an immortal cultivator instead of a citizen of the demon race? There was no point in doing this. No, it's possible. I Ching looked up at them. For the two realms to merge. Everyone was stunned and reacted instantly. If there really was a demon god in this world, then there was indeed the divine power to merge the two worlds. Naturally, it was also possible for him and Shenning to transmigrate to this world. I Ching and Lone Moon thought even deeper. Back then, Hui Ling had used this jade pendant to pull Shenning into the middle realm. By right, it was not that easy to cross the realm gate. It would have been fine if they had entered the mortal realm. If one were to enter a higher realm like the god world, it would be very difficult to enter unless one ascended. Not to mention the fringe realm that he had never heard of. Perhaps only the demonic god had this ability. Moreover, Shen Ying's power could not be understood by those who had not personally witnessed it. Shen Ying was the only one in the entire immortal realm who could stop the merging of the immortal and demonic realms. Locking her up in the underworld was the best solution. Even if she couldn't be trapped, she could at least buy some time. In fact, although Hui Ling's actions were stupid, it did divert their attention. Even after repelling the enemy, they were only focused on getting the celestial emperors to return to their bodies from the radishes, and did not pay attention to the situation at the gate to the demonic realm. You mean the demonic god merged the immortal and demonic realms? Zhuohua, who finally understood what was going on, frowned and turned to look at Zhan Ting. Then where is this demonic god now? The two demon kings were stunned. After a while, Zhan Ting said with a fawning expression, Madam, just as Li Yin said, the existence of the demonic god is just a legend. No one knows if it's real or not. No one has ever seen the real demonic god, so no one can find him. Then let him come find us, Shenning suddenly said. Everyone was stunned and turned to look at her in confusion. What did she mean? Does Exalted Goddess have a way? Little Black's eyes lit up, and he started to flatter her out of habit. You are indeed the Exalted Goddess. You are so wise, brave, and omnipotent. Then how can we let the demonic god come find us? Shenning finished the fruit in her hand in a few bites, and turned to look at Little Black. She suddenly grinned at him, revealing a kind expression that she had never shown before. Little Black shivered for no reason, and all the hairs on his body stood on end. Little Black. Yes. The weather is pretty good today. Why don't you make a vow for fun? The kind that requires the demonic god's seal. Ha! Sigma Q. P, was he deaf? 6 hours later. Exalted Goddess. Do I really have to make a vow? Yes. Shenning nodded. Exalted Goddess, making a vow with the demonic spirit is a very important matter. We need to consider it carefully. Why don't we change it to another day? Ah, Exalted Goddess, why don't we change the content of the vow? I am a demon king after all. This is my first time making a vow with the demonic spirit. I should at least make a great vow to help Exalted Goddess unify the three realms. Not interested. Exalted Goddess, why don't you unify the demon world for fun? The demon world is especially fun. I'm not playing. Exalted Goddess, Zhan Ting is also a demon king. What's more, He has been a demon king for longer than me. The effect of making a vow is better. Why don't we change it to him? Not familiar. Exalted goddess. Shut up and go. All right. A certain demon king finally gave up and lowered his head. With a bitter expression, he walked to the center of the courtyard, looking like he was about to cry. With a pair of red rabbit-like eyes, he set up an array and conjured a seal at the same time. I don't want to be a demon king at all anymore. Shening. Perhaps because Little Black's eyes were filled with resentment, Lone Moon could not help but nudge the person beside him. Are you really sure that this demonic spirit contract can draw out the so-called god fiend? I'm not sure. Shening shook her head seriously. Lone Moon. I Ching. Black and white. So you're just going to let Little Black try to die? Don't worry, nothing will happen. It was not a big vow. Shening subconsciously took a step forward and stood closer to the crying demon king. Little Black had already finished setting up the array. He even set up more than 10 defensive arrays in one go. Then, he stood in the center of the array and took a few deep breaths, as if he was desperately preparing himself for something. After a while, he turned to look at Shening. Exalted goddess, can't we change the vow? Shening did not answer. She only raised the fruit in her hand and opened her mouth to bite into it. Little Black's figure shrank, and he immediately stood back in the array. Then, he raised his hand high and channeled demonic chi into his voice. He shouted loudly, the oath of heaven, the supreme god of the demon Tao, the king of the demon world Li'in, hereby swears by the demon spirit, to follow the laws of heaven and earth, to obey the rules of the great Tao. Tonight, I must let exalted goddess Shening eat sweet dumplings. If I break this vow, I am willing to bear the heavy punishment of the god fiend. In a moment, his loud voice spread throughout the entire demon city, and did not stop for a long time. The city. Little Black. This is too embarrassing. I want to cry. Intersection chef. Yes. Make salty dumplings tonight. Yes, master, no problem, master. Little Black. Lone Moon. Black and white. This was not what they agreed on. Chapter 229. The sky suddenly darkened. They were already at the bottom of the valley. But now the sky was filled with dark clouds, and the wind was surging. The sky was dark, and even the surrounding air seemed to have become heavy. Before anyone could react, a purple lightning bolt descended from the sky and entered Blackie's glabella at an extremely fast speed. In the next moment, a red pattern identical to the one on the jade pendant appeared on his glabella. It really is the Godfiend seal. Lone Moon was shocked. He did not expect such a ridiculous oath to really trigger the Godfiend seal. Indeed, as long as one was a sky fiend or above, they could trigger this. Blackie touched his body subconsciously. Fortunately, he was not missing an arm or a leg. He heaved a sigh of relief and turned to Shening. Exalted goddess, I didn't. Master, the salty dumplings are ready. Before he could finish speaking, I Ching suddenly held up a big string of dumplings. Did he have to be so fast? He did it on purpose, he definitely did it. Oh, greater than over equal to. Oh, exalted goddess, you'll be stuffed after eating the pastries. Do you want to eat later? He said seriously. Master, I've prepared spirit tea. He took out a cup of tea. Exalted goddess, the pastries and dumplings are so dry. You'll choke if you eat them together. He continued to persuade. Master, I have fruits here. He took out a fruit. Exalted goddess, look at the freshly wrapped dumplings. It will take some time to cook them. Why don't you eat the sweet ones first? Master, the water manipulation deviant fire art is done. He handed it to her. For all, Flip's table. Can't you just let me be a demon properly? I Ching. No one can doubt my professionalism. Exalted goddess. Blackie knelt on the ground and cried loudly. The consequences of going against the Godfiend contract are really serious. Why don't you reconsider? Jeeb, a certain someone who had already eaten half a dumpling, asked. What did you say? Blackie. I Ching. Everyone. Boom. The clouds that had just dispersed gathered again. This time, it was even darker than before. There was not a single ray of white light in the sky, Only faint red lightning could be seen. A strong gust of wind swept through the entire demon city. Even the ground started to shake. The others were fine, but Little Black and John Ting seemed to have sensed something and knelt down subconsciously. Suddenly, a red light flashed, and the sky seemed to be torn apart by something. A huge red lightning broke through the air and struck down in the direction of Blackie. Sky punishment. Blackie's face immediately paled. The pressure of the world within the red light was so strong that he couldn't even lift his head. Even the demon spirit within his body was trembling. His heart immediately turned cold. It was just a violation of a contract, yet this heavenly punishment was too heavy. Seeing that the lightning was about to strike him, he subconsciously turned towards Shining. Exalted goddess, out of the way. Before he could finish, he felt his collar tighten. Shining suddenly reached out and pulled him out of the range of the lightning. In the next moment, there was a loud boom. The red lightning directly exploded on Xin Ying's body. The dozen or so arrays that Little Black Cloth had set up were all destroyed in an instant, and the ground glowed red. Shining stood in the red light, looking up at the dark sky. Master! I Ching stepped forward worriedly. Seeing that she was safe and sound, he heaved a sigh of relief. That lightning. Out of the way! Shining suddenly interrupted him. Everyone was stunned. Before they could react, they subconsciously looked up and saw that two more red lightning bolts had suddenly appeared above their heads. They were heading towards them at an extremely fast speed. Holy shit! Even Lone Moon was shocked. The lightning seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. No one could react in time. What was going on? Was this godfiend blind? It was clearly Blackie's heavenly punishment. Why was it striking them? Chef! Shining turned around and was about to rush over to pull him back. Suddenly, as if sensing something, she retracted her hand. In the blink of an eye, a huge patch of red light enveloped the entire courtyard. One lightning bolt after another struck down, bringing with it an earth-shattering pressure. The strange thing was, I'm fine. Black had touched his body and found no injuries at all. He hurriedly used his demonic chi to test it out. Be it his cultivation level, demon spirit, or even his meridians, they were all unharmed. How could this be? This was clearly the lightning of heavenly punishment, scarier than any lightning tribulation. Yet he was completely fine. Exalted goddess, what exactly? Exalted goddess? Where's exalted goddess? He looked around, only to find that Xin Ying was no longer in front of him. What's going on? It's not just her. Zhan Ting suddenly spoke. Those two immortal cultivators are gone too. What's going on? This was an endless stretch of water. The surface of the water was exceptionally calm. It was like a mirror of the sky, reflecting the entire blue sky and white clouds. A man dressed in black stood between heaven and earth. His long hair reached the ground, and he stood barefooted. Compared to the good looks of people from both the immortal and demonic realms, he looked very ordinary. At most, he could be considered decent. He had the kind of face that no one would notice. However, his red eyes were exceptionally special. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised with a hint of a smile. Large patches of fire-like red lotuses bloomed under his feet. Although he looked ordinary, he gave off an exceptionally seductive feeling. You wanted to see me? He suddenly spoke. His voice was not loud, but it was somewhat ethereal. It was as if the entire heaven and earth were responding to him. Shening. Shening nodded. She did not panic at all when she was suddenly pulled into a foreign world. Godfiend. The man did not mind her overly calm reaction. After a moment of silence, he nodded. He still had that somewhat friendly smile on his face. Yes, I am the Godfiend. Where's Chef and Father Nyo? She looked around and asked. The Godfiend glanced at her and gently raised his hand. Instantly, the calm water beneath his feet rippled. Slowly, an image that looked like a projection appeared. Two huge lotuses appeared on it. Lone Moon and I Ching were lying in the lotuses. They seemed to be in a deep sleep. This is my divine realm. The bodies of all living beings in the three realms cannot withstand the divine power here. That's why I can only let them sleep first, he explained. Then he looked up at her. Except for you. Oh. Shening glanced at the two people in the lotuses. Then, she sat cross-legged on the water surface and continued to chew on her fruit. I have a few questions to discuss with you. What do you want to know? Did you give Huiling's jade pendant? Yes. Was the merging of the immortal and demonic realms your idea? That's true. Did you prepare the book that Father Nyo was reading? That's right. We transmigrated to this world because of you. Basically. Then I have one last question. Please ask. If I beat you up now, is it against the law? Until you can't even take care of yourself. The Godfiend's smile stiffened. After a while, he took a deep breath. Shening, I know your situation is special. But this is my divine realm. I am the ancient god who created the three realms. You can't hurt me. Is that so? Shening tilted her head and pulled out a fruit knife from somewhere. She casually stabbed it into the water. There was a cracking sound, and a white crack appeared on the surface of the water. It looked like a broken mirror. Do you want me to try? The Godfiend. Chapter 230. Everything I'm doing is for the three realms. The Godfiend subconsciously took a step back and said earnestly, Shening, didn't you also guess that something was wrong? I took the initiative to show myself to you in order to explain this matter. No. Shening shook her head. More accurately, I lured you out. The corner of his mouth twitched. All right, I believe that you are not an unreasonable person. Otherwise, you could have made me appear in the demon realm as soon as I sent down the first heavenly punishment on the little demon king. You wouldn't have waited for me to summon you to the god realm, even though you had clearly discovered my existence. No. Shening looked confused. I didn't see you just now. Didn't you look up just now? Did you see him? Oh, I wanted to sneeze. He wanted to drink some tea to calm himself down, but he pulled him in. Pfft. What was with this urge to spit out a mouthful of blood to kill her? A while later, let's talk about the matter between the immortal and demonic realms. The Godfiend's calm face contorted several times before he regained his composure. I'm not interested in chatting anymore. Shening calmly swung the fruit knife in her hand and was about to stand up. Wait! The Godfiend's face paled, and he subconsciously took a step back. His eyes darted around, and he suddenly drew a line on the ground with his finger. Two figures floated out of the huge lotus below. It was I Ching and Lo Moon. Master! I Ching subconsciously took 2 steps towards Shening. Shening! Lo Moon was also confused. What is this place? What's going on? The divine realm. Shening pointed her chin at the person opposite her and explained, the Godfiend. The Godfiend. The two of them were shocked and looked at the man warily. This was the Godfiend? Although their bodies cannot withstand the divine power here, it is not a problem for their primordial spirits to appear. The Godfiend was still smiling at Shening. In that case, are you willing to listen to my reason? Fighting would hurt their relationship. Shen Ying's brows relaxed a little. She then sat back down and put away her fruit knife. Speak. The Godfiend's smile deepened. He said slowly, the reason why I am combining the 2 realms is not only for the fiend realm, but also for the 3 realms. As he spoke, he raised his hand, and the originally boundless sky-blue water suddenly darkened. The water source began to dry up, and a golden meandering stream vaguely appeared on the ground. However, the water in the stream was extremely sparse, and only a stream as thick as an arm could be faintly seen. It seemed like a pulsating meridian, and it extended into the distance with a dense golden light. Do you recognize this river? The demon god asked. River? The 3 of them looked down. This river was too precious. What river? This is the main branch of the river of forgetfulness that passes through the demon realm. He sighed deeply. Forget river? I'm sure you all know that in the beginning, this world was divided into 3 realms: heaven, earth, and man. The river of forgetfulness was the only river of samsara that flowed through the 3 realms. Just like a person's meridians, it branched out to every corner of the 3 realms. What is flowing in this river is not water, but the souls of all living things. Soul. Shening narrowed her eyes. The river of forgetfulness gathers the souls of all living things. and also sends these souls to every corner of the three realms. Every drop of water is a soul, whether it was a demon, a god, or a living thing. All living things in the three realms were once a part of the river of forgetfulness, and will eventually return to this river. This is the truth of the samsara of all living things. No wonder the power of samsara could cleanse everything, even demonic qi. Back then, Chunga sent Xian Tong into samsara for this reason. There were only souls in the river of forgetfulness, and naturally it could not contain anything else. And the reason why Xian Tong could not cleanse her demonic qi even after 3 samsara cycles was also because Chunga forcefully interfered and made her reincarnate directly. Her soul did not stay in the river of forgetfulness. Even beings with long lifespans like the immortal, demon, and god races can die. When that time comes, they will naturally return to the river of forgetfulness and enter samsara again. The original demon realm was the same. Original? Shening caught the keyword. That's right, the original. The demon god nodded, frowning even more deeply. Suddenly, he waved his hand behind him. This is the main branch of the river of forgetfulness in the immortal realm. You will understand when you see it. Just as he finished speaking, a blinding light came rushing towards him. All he saw was a dazzling golden light, so wide that he could not see the end. It stretched for more than a few kilometers behind him, and he could not see the end of it at all. Half the sky was reflected in gold. Lone Moon stared at the wide main branch of the river of forgetfulness, and then looked at the small river of forgetfulness in the demon realm under his feet. How can this be? Wasn't the difference too big? Was he sure that the demon realm was also the main branch? The immortal realm, demon realm, and god realm originally belonged to the same realm. Originally, these 3 races belonged to the same main branch of the river of forgetfulness. But ever since the divine race ascended to the immortal realm and god realm were separated into 2 realms, causing the demon realm to be sealed. The main branch of the river of forgetfulness was split into 3, and was not as good as before. The immortal realm and the mortal realm are connected. Although the divine realm is separated from the immortal realm, it is merged with the earth realm, so the impact is not very obvious. Only the demon realm was sealed outside the 3 realms. The river of forgetfulness was isolated for many years, and as time passed, the river water dried up. And the people of the demon realm, souls cannot enter samsara. Lone Moon continued, and looked up at the person in front of him. So, in order to save the demon realm, you merged the immortal realm and the demon realm into one, and let the river of forgetfulness of the demon realm flow through the 3 realms again? Yes. He nodded, and resumed his faint smile, and no one could tell whether he was happy or angry. Then why did you pull me into this world? Lone Moon could not help but ask. If it was for the demon realm, he was one of the 3 ancient gods, and he definitely had the ability to merge the realms. Who could stop him? There was no need to pull him into this world at all, right? Although I am the god fiend, I have already left the 3 realms. I cannot directly interfere with the matters of the 3 realms, and can only interfere indirectly, he explained in a low voice. You intend to let me open the door to the demon realm? Lone Moon was shocked. No, you are just a supporting person. The god fiend shook his head. The spell on the door to the demon realm that John Ting created is indeed a teleportation spell. But the material used to create the door is the heaven-opening stone that was left in the demon realm in ancient times. The Emperor Ascension stage is the heavenly pillar of the 2 realms. If the heaven-opening stone of the demon realm is placed on it, the 2 realms will naturally be connected to each other. So, the door to the demon realm can only be opened on the Emperor Ascension stone. He nodded. After the demon realm was sealed, I calculated the most likely person to open the door to the demon realm on the heavenly pillar. Lone Moon pondered for a moment. Is it Chen Gu and Xian Tong? Yes. He looked calmly at the 2 people beside Shining. But the success rate of this is only 50%. There is still a very important obstacle, and you are the only person who can eliminate this obstacle. That is why I summoned you into this world. Obstacle? Lone Moon was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, he thought of something, and turned to look at the person beside him. I Ching. In the plot, the only person who can stop the door to the demon realm is him. The godfiend's smile deepened. The answer was obvious. That is why you let that book appear in front of me? The corner of Loneman's mouth twitched. Only someone who understood the plot in advance would want to stop I Ching from sending himself to death. But, is there a need for you to write these predictions into a novel? Are you a freaking writer? And the kind that will get your water meter checked? After I calculated all your reactions, I disguised it in the most suitable way to appear in front of you. The most suitable way, isn't that? Loneman's expression darkened. At the same time, two suspicious gazes landed on him. What are you looking at? A certain someone exploded. I told you I don't like to read pornographic books. Oh, *2*, oh your sister. Retract that suspicious wavy line of yours. The godfiend's face turned bright red. He turned to point at the person in front of him. Can you guys pay attention to the main point? That pornographic book is all a plot by him. I have no interest in it. From what I know, you read it 4 times. The godfiend asked. Pop. The sound of bubbles bursting could be heard in the air. Lone Moon. Oh, the waves of ecstasy grew many times longer. Shut up. Vessel. Chapter 231. However, there was still a problem with my calculations. The demon realm turned to look at Shining. Something flashed across his eyes. What happened after that had already deviated from my calculations. That's why I chose Hui Ling. She was originally a puppet formed by a strand of Zichen's demonic aura. She accidentally entered the river of forgetfulness and was tainted by the aura of a soul. She was not a living being of the 3 realms. So when she made a wish to me to gain power, I answered her. It turned out that on the day of the competition, the strange white light that appeared in Hui Ling's jade pendant and the void realm that trapped Shining were really the power of the god fiend. But did Hui Ling already know my identity from such a long time ago? It was no wonder that she had been targeting Shining from the beginning. If she was really a manifestation of Zichen's demonic qi, then she naturally would not be able to resist the power of a god fiend. But the immortal realm and the demonic realm have always been at odds with each other. Aren't you afraid that the 2 realms would really end up fighting each other? Aren't you afraid that the 2 realms would really end up in a terrible situation? I Ching suddenly spoke up, raising his head to look at the man not far away, his brows furrowed. If it weren't for Master, the immortal realm and the demonic realm would have fought each other a long time ago. Then, what would be the point of merging the 2 realms? Didn't the divine race seal off the demonic realm to avoid this? As an ancient demon god, the creator of the demon race, are you saving them or destroying them? The moment he said this, Lone Moon was stunned and immediately reacted. That's right, he kept saying that he was going to save them. But the merging of the 2 realms would obviously lead to more sacrifices. Their lives and deaths are not within the scope of my consideration. His expression did not change, as if the lives and deaths of the demons were completely meaningless to him. The duo was infuriated. All I worry about is balance. What kind of broken balance is this? Lone Moon could not help but scold. If it was really for the sake of balance, you should not have allowed immortals and demons to merge into one. He was silent for a moment, then glanced at the 2 of them. What you see is only the survival of the 2 realms, but what I see is the reincarnation of the entire 3 realms. What do you mean? The number of living beings in this world is limited, he said in a low voice. The fiend realm is also a part of the 3 realms. Although the river of forgetfulness in the fiend realm cannot enter samsara, people's hearts are fickle. The immortal realm cannot enter the fiend realm, but mortals can become fiends. In the long run, what do you think will happen? The 2 of them were stunned. Indeed, the ascension of a devil cultivator from the mortal realm was equivalent to ascending to the devil realm. Looking at it this way, the demon world was a place where one could only enter and not leave. In the long run, the number of souls in the demon realm who could not enter the cycle of reincarnation would increase, and the number of souls that could be reincarnated in the 3 realms would naturally decrease. One day, all living beings would go extinct. Therefore life and death are not important to me. The balance of the three realms is important. From the perspective of the survival of the entire world, even if the entire immortal and demon realms were to die in battle, they would just return to the river of forgetfulness. It had no effect on the world at all. For a moment, both of them were silent. What about me? Shenning suddenly broke the silence. She looked up at the god-fiend in front of her. What part of your plan do I play? This. The smile on the god-fiend's face froze for a moment. Then, he smiled even more brilliantly. Your power is special. In order to prevent any accidents from happening, so... I'm kind of insurance? Ha. A trace of guilt flashed across his eyes, but he immediately regained his righteous demeanor. The facts have proven that, although the process was different from what I had predicted, it was precisely because of your existence that the immortal and demonic realms merged together more than 100,000 years earlier than expected. Countless souls were prevented from disappearing. So, what you did was a good thing. Shen Ying's eyes narrowed slightly. The look in his eyes became more and more resolute. Everything I did was for the three realms, for this world. Save the three realms. Shen Ying looked straight at the person in front of her. Do you feel that you are especially selfless, especially great, especially awesome, especially sacred and inviolable now? So people should cooperate with you, should be used by you, should abandon everything, and let you do whatever you want? I did it to save the world. She suddenly laughed coldly. You just said that everyone has a responsibility to save the world. That's right. But have you freaking forgotten that this is not our world at all? Reincarnation of the river of forgetfulness? What does the survival of the three realms have to do with Father Nyo and me? I have no problem with you wanting to save the world, to merge the realms, to predict the future. But you pulled a completely unrelated person over and played a big game for nothing. After that, you directly put a big hat on the survival of the three realms, and you want to pretend that nothing happened? Heh. Do you think that we who live in another world are so easy to bully? No, even children in kindergarten know that you have to get permission to ask for help. But the way you forcefully pulled someone from another world over without saying a word is not asking for help, but kidnapping, isn't it? Because you have a reason, because you want to save the three realms. So you can play us for a fool? May I ask, did we enter your river of forgetfulness? Or did we eat your rice? The god-fiend, I Ching and Lone Moon. There really was rice and there was a lot of it. I hate kidnapping, especially moral kidnapping. Shenning stood up directly, her eyes darkening as her lips curved into a somewhat cold smile. No matter how many people you save, or what righteousness you achieve, but you still owe Father Nyo and me an apology, and I'd like to get it back with my own hands. With that said, she suddenly cupped her fists and pressed them together. A crisp cracking sound shook the godfiend's heart, and he subconsciously took a few steps back. But Shenning flashed to his side, and in the next moment, she was already in front of him, reaching out. Wait! The godfiend's face paled. The calm expression on his face disappeared completely. He was the godfiend after all. His figure flashed, and in an instant, he retreated 5 or 6 steps. Before the people opposite him caught up to him, he hurriedly waved his hand and explained loudly, I only let you transmigrate here with permission. Bullshit. Lone Moon also reacted. He was almost tricked into entering. Saving the world was indeed very important, but they were not people of this world. No matter how much they tried to save it, it was not their turn to come over, and it was even forced. They helped out of friendship, not out of duty. What they hated was not being forced to save the world, but his attitude when he was clearly using others, yet still taking it for granted. According to what he said, if not for Shenning this time, perhaps he would not even appear in front of them to explain all this. Shenning, he's stalling for time, beat him up. They had to vent this anger no matter what. Really? I'm speaking the truth. The godfiend hurriedly took out something from his chest and handed it to Shenning. I did indeed get permission to let you transmigrate here. If you don't believe me, take a look. Lone Moon took a look and found that it seemed to be an envelope. The style did not look like the kind in this world, but more like the modern kind. Shening hesitated for a moment, then took it and pulled out a piece of paper. She looked down and suddenly, the slightly angry expression on her face suddenly turned as white as the paper in her hand. Shit! Chapter 232. The moment she saw the words on the paper, Shen Ying's hands trembled, and she almost threw the letter. Her entire body froze, her face turning from red to white to green, and then to purple. Her expression was rich and colorful. She had even cured her facial paralysis for many years. Shening. Lone Moon nudged the person whose acupoints were suddenly sealed. What's wrong with you? What's written on the paper? He could not help but step forward curiously, about to look at the letter. Shening retracted her palm, and took a deep breath. Her expression changed instantly. She suddenly smiled warmly at the God Fiend, blinking her eyes and asking in a low voice, Mr. God Fiend, is there anything else I can help you with? Not to mention merging 2 realms. Even merging 4, 5, 6, or 7 realms of heaven, earth and man can be done. Do you want to try? The God Fiend. I Ching. Lone Moon. It's alright, you can take your time to think about it. Leave it to me, the kind that doesn't require a salary. Her voice was full of twists and turns. Shening, you're crazy. Lone Moon looked at her in disbelief. Wasn't she freaking changing too fast? Shening completely ignored him, smiling even brighter. Whether it's saving the world or moving bricks, merging realms or tearing down walls, I'm a professional. Just tell me, don't stand on ceremony. No need. The God Fiend was also confused. Was he blind? The person smiling like a sunflower in front of him. Was she really that Shening? Alright, don't be anxious. Your satisfaction is my goal. She blinked her eyes even faster. She almost added, give me a good review, my dear. Hey. Shening. Lone Moon could not help but reach out to touch her head. Are you sick? Shening slapped his hand away and glared at him coldly. Get off. She turned to look at the God Fiend with that exaggerated smile of hers. Then is there anything else, Mr. God Fiend? No. Alright, then we'll leave first. Shening waved at him. Take care, Mr. God Fiend. Goodbye, Mr. God Fiend. Goodbye? Shun. Lone Moon still wanted to say something, but Shening tugged at him. The next moment, she pointed to the crack on the ground that she had made with the fruit knife, and stomped hard to make a big hole. She grabbed Chef with her left hand, and dragged Father Nyo with her right. Without hesitation, she jumped into the hole and disappeared. The God Fiend. Was he hallucinating just now? Lone Moon felt his vision blur, and the next moment, he was back in the demon realm. Little Black's eyes lit up. He was about to step forward, but Shening had no intention of stopping. Throwing down 2 words, go home. Then he grabbed the 2 of them, and ran out of the demon city like an afterimage. He kept running out of the demon world, and headed straight for the Bo-Si Heavenly Palace. He ran back to the rear hall where he usually lived, and slammed the door shut. Only then did he lay on the ground like a dead dog, panting for breath for a long time. A while later, Chef, no one followed us, right? No. That's good. I Ching. Lone Moon. What exactly happened? Lone Moon finally saw the letter that Shening was still clutching tightly in her hand. He pulled it over to take a look. He saw that there was a neat row of black words written in standard Chinese characters. Little Ing, go and help. You're dead if you don't complete it. Sister, stay quietly. Quiet. This letter was written by your sister? Lone Moon's mind went blank. He seemed to have figured something out. Subconsciously he asked, Shening, don't tell me your sister is called Shun. No. Before he finished, Shening, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog, suddenly rushed over and covered his mouth. She looked like she was about to cry. Father Nyo, my biological father, I beg you, don't say that name. I still want to live for a few more years, really. Don't jinx it, please don't raise flags, okay? Masta? Not only Lone Moon, even I Ching was shocked by her extreme reaction. Was it so scary? Just hearing the name made her want to dig a hole and bury herself. He really wanted to know what her sister had done. You can't be Shening. Lone Moon had never seen her like this. I just said a name. Is there a need for you to do that? There is a need, of course there is. What if she hears it? It was very scary, okay? She can't hear it. No. Shening shook her head hard and looked around. My sister's ears are very, very sensitive. Lone Moon and I Ching. No matter how sensitive she was, she couldn't possibly hear the voices of another world, right? There's nothing on this letter. Lone Moon looked at the letter again. Why are you so scared? No matter what, she's still your sister. Do you think she'll eat people? Shen Ying's face turned green. After a long while she sighed. Sigh, you don't understand. My sister is scarier than a cannibal. What kind of person is Master's sister? I Ching could not help but ask. Shening shivered subconsciously and her expression changed. My sister. Wait. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He looked at the two of them and said, before we tell the story, can we get out from under the bed first? I Ching. Shening. What the hell? It was one thing to crawl under the bed. But why did she have to drag the two of them with her? Half an hour later. Master, have a cup of tea to calm yourself down. I Ching handed a cup of tea to her. She finally calmed down and gulped down the tea. She handed the empty cup over. Another cup, no, 3 cups. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He snatched the cup from her hand. That's enough. You can tell me now, right? What exactly happened? What did your sister do to you? Shen Ying's hand froze. She seemed to want to hide out of reflex. She looked around and sighed again. You don't understand. Then tell me. Lone Moon was really curious. What kind of person could make the cheat Shening like this? Shening quietly drank a few more cups of tea and glanced at the two of them. After a while, she said with some hesitation, let me put it this way. All the abilities I have now were forced out by my sister's demonic training. What? Lone Moon paused and suddenly thought of something. He stood up abruptly. Your heaven-defying cheat ability. Don't tell me it was also trained by your sister? Oh no. I only got this after I transmigrated. She shook her head. Other than this, Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief and sat back down. He rolled his eyes at her. Other than cheats, you have other abilities? Eating and getting angry after waking up? A little. Shening thought about it seriously. For example, curve folding, spatial dimension control, spirit body development, third type of language, extreme development of the brain, artificial intelligence. She said tens of nouns in one breath. Lone Moon. What a mess. He had never heard of a single one of them. What are these things you're talking about? Could it be some kind of cult? It's very difficult. All right, then what have you achieved by learning all these? Shening frowned. She counted with her fingers, as if she was really serious about something. After a while she said, I've won more than 10 medals for space managers. Does that count? What? What the hell? Awards given by the district manager. Chapter 233. That award is quite difficult. It's only given out once every 2 years. Master is indeed wise. I Ching praised his master. Master's mind is clear and agile. Naturally, you can do what we can't and think what we can't. Bootlicker. Lone Moon glared at Chef. If he didn't understand, then so be it. Would he die if he didn't brag a little? But on second thought, Shening was indeed quite smart sometimes. Of course, that was when she wasn't being lazy. What you said isn't that great. What else do you know? She thought about it carefully. After a while she said, when I'm bored, playing with IT counts. IT? You? Lone Moon scanned her from head to toe. That's my profession. You play games. That's not IT. What kind of IT skills could a housewife have? I know other things too. Shening said seriously. What? For example? She thought about it. After a while she asked. Your company had an interstellar game, but the main engine was modified. You only found out about it after 5 years when you released a remake? How did you know? Lone Moon was shocked. That was one of the main projects of their company's gaming department. It was very popular and profitable, but it was modified not long after it was released. Although it didn't have much impact, the technical department only found out about it 5 years later. Because it didn't cause any damage and seemed to be better than the original engine, it was kept a secret. Only a few of the company's higher-ups knew about it. Oh, I was the one who modified it. Huh. Also, does your main server lag for 2 seconds at midnight and can't be repaired? Yes. That's because my computer is too slow. I borrow your server regularly to transfer things. Damn. Also, during the finals of the gaming competition you organized, the game suddenly crashed and couldn't be restarted. It was delayed until the next day. Yes, there was such a thing. Oh, the file I used your server that day was a little big. Damn. Oh, before transmigrating, did your technical department discover holographic technology and prepare to release a holographic online game? That can't be. I wrote the core program. I forgot to delete it when I borrowed your server. Mother****. Also, enough. How many times have you King tricked me? He took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to tear her apart. Did I owe you in my past life? Why do you keep staring at me? Shenning hesitated. After thinking for a while, she gave him a definite answer. Maybe it's too boring to rest. Boring your ass. You play other people's servers all the time because you're bored. If you're that capable, go play the U.S. Department of Defense's server. Lone Moon took a deep breath to suppress the anger in his heart. You mean to say that your sister taught you all your IT skills? Oh, that doesn't count. I learned it on my own when I was bored, she said calmly. It took me more than 2 months. After all, it was much simpler than the Star Web. Damn it, I can't continue this conversation. Did he ever think about the feelings of the hundreds of technicians in his company? All right, we'll talk about your sister later. We can't just let the God Fiend go like this, can we? He felt indignant. Shenning looked up at him. After a while, she said seriously, Father Neo, how do you think we should settle the score with the God Fiend? Go back. Lo Moon paused. His expression changed. A hint of conflict flashed in his eyes. If he had asked this question when he first transmigrated, the answer would undoubtedly be that he wanted to go back. But he had already lived here for hundreds of years. Not a few years, not more than 10 years, not even decades. It was a whole 300 years. Although he always remembered what happened in his previous life, he had already treated this place as his own world. If he really left everything here and went back to where he came from, he would probably be even more uncomfortable. Lone Moon fell silent. The God Fiend was indeed despicable, but apart from beating him up to vent their anger, they really had no other choice. Even if the God Fiend sent them back now, it seemed unrealistic. He looked up at Shenning and asked casually, What about you? Do you want to go back? After all, she had not been here for many years. I Ching immediately looked over with a nervous expression. No, she did not even hesitate. She rejected him decisively, and even shook her head forcefully. With a serious expression she said, It's quite good here. I have food, clothes, and sleep. I don't have to study. I can even eat supper. It was really a treatment where she could let herself go. Good for nothing. Lone Moon rolled his eyes. Indeed, he could not expect too much from a foodie. Wait. Based on Shen Ying's character, she could not have deliberately stayed here to hide from her sister. Did she treat this world as a holiday? Damn. What the hell was this feeling that only he felt the most aggrieved? Chef, I'm hungry. Make me supper. Yes, master, no problem, master. I Ching heaved a sigh of relief and immediately turned to the kitchen. King retard. Sect master. I Ching was just about to leave when Yu Hong suddenly rushed in. Behind her was Qingyu and Feng Ying. As the eldest senior sister, she had always been steady. She rarely acted so rashly. Bad news, sect master. Xian Tong is missing. Xian Tong? Lone Moon hesitated. He asked in a low voice. Why is she missing? What exactly happened? Speak slowly. Let me explain. Sister Qingyu stepped forward. She looked anxious as well. A few days ago, little Tong told me that during the sect war, she had an epiphany and showed signs of forming sword intent. That's why she's planning to go into seclusion to become an exalted immortal. Exalted immortal. Lone Moon's heart leaped with joy. After the seal on Xian Tong's body was removed, she was already a Stygian immortal. Apart from him and I Ching, There was no one else in the sect who could teach her. Usually, when he was free, he would give her some pointers. But too many things had happened recently. This time, they were busy with the moving, so they did not pay much attention to her. And the disciples in the sect had always been left to their own devices. He did not expect her to be so hardworking. She was about to understand her own sword intent so quickly. She was indeed a good seedling for sword cultivation. Yes, that's why these few days, Yu Hong and I have been helping her prepare for her seclusion. Qingyu glanced at Yu Hong, and her expression became even more anxious as she said, "But when I went to look for her this morning, I found that she was not in the room. The array outside the house was not damaged either. She just disappeared into thin air. She's about to ascend. The immortal qi in her body is not stable. It's impossible that she would leave at this time." Yu Hong continued, "And she lives in the east side of the rear hall. That place has always been quiet. I've also instructed the disciples not to disturb her. That's why no one went to look for her. I've also asked the system to search." Fengming continued, "There's no aura of her in the entire heavenly palace. She should have left." Lone Moon and I Ching exchanged a look. "Come, let's go to her room to take a look." With that said, they turned to leave. Just as they were about to step out of the door, they paused and turned back to pick up a certain lump of mud. Together, they headed towards the side hall. Chapter 234. The Invincible Heavenly Palace had hundreds of immortal palaces, but their invincible sect only had more than 200 people. That was why Lone Moon had allowed the disciples to choose whichever immortal palace they wanted to stay in. The disciples all chose to stay around Xiantong's back hall. It was not far away, and within moments, they had arrived at Xiantong's immortal palace. Unlike the other disciples' immortal palaces, Xiantong's immortal palace did not have a single immortal herb in front of it. It was all a lush vegetable field. There were potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, even onions, ginger and garlic. The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. He immediately knew what these things were for. He turned and glared at Shining. "Look at what you've done." The others did not feel anything. It was as if the courtyard was filled with ordinary immortal herbs. They walked through the small path in the middle. Yu Hong took out a token to unlock the immortal palace's restrictions and opened the door. Compared to the flourishing vegetable field outside, the immortal palace was exceptionally quiet. There was not even a single piece of furniture. There was only a meditation mat on the ground and a white jade vase on the windowsill. Inside it was a flower that was overflowing with immortal qi. Lone Moon released his divine perception and looked around. He conjured a tracking spell, but there was no response. Xiantong was indeed not here. But where could she have gone? Littling. Sect Master Elders. Roasted Chicken Gal scanned the three of them anxiously. Although Little Tong is the youngest, she has always been the most obedient. She has never made us worry. She could not have left without saying goodbye. She did not even leave a message. Something must have happened. Loman's frown deepened. "Yu Hong, have you sent disciples to search outside the heavenly gate? Especially the nearby islands?" "I have." Yu Hong nodded. "I have searched nearly 100 islands under the heavenly palace. I have also informed all the country emperors, but there is still no response. Where could she have gone?" He turned and nudged Shining. "Do you see anything?" Shining shook her head. Her gaze landed on the flower on the windowsill. "Nothing. You can't see anything either." Lone Moon squeezed the jade flute in his hand. "What exactly is going on? Why don't we ask Salted Fish?" Shining suggested. "Salted Fish?" Lone Moon paused. Then realization dawned on him. "You mean Chunge?" "That's right. With Xiantong's relationship with Chunge, he might really be able to find her. Moreover, that kid Chunge, ever since they moved to the Bo Si Celestial Palace, he would come here every other day. He would even send all kinds of immortal artifacts to Xiantong from time to time. Even a blind person could see that he liked Xiantong. He even said that since they were all from Fengsong, it was only natural for them to take care of each other. However, Xiantong despised him. 9 out of 10 times she refused to meet him. Not only did she never accept his immortal artifacts, But she also often showed off Lan Hua and Sun Shu's immortal artifacts in front of him. One of them was a former genius celestial arch, while the other was from a family that specialized in weapon refinement. Their immortal weapons were naturally not inferior to Chen Ji's. Every time, he would suffer a huge blow, and after 2 days of depression, he would come back with a vengeance. The entire Invincible sect, and even Lone Moon were happy to see the two of them together. Although Chen Ge was not particularly strong, he was still a celestial arch. After working with him a few times, he was still trustworthy. Yu Hong, quickly send someone to the Fengsong Celestial Palace and invite Celestial Emperor Chen Ge over. Lone Moon immediately ordered. Go through the palace's transportation array. On the day of I Ching's sky-bearing ceremony, the various celestial thearchs not only congratulated him and repaid their debts, they also set up transportation arrays in the Celestial Emperor's sky-bearing ceremony. Now it was much more convenient. All right. Yu Hong nodded. Chef should go. Shining seemed to have thought of something as she turned to look at I Ching. He's faster. Yes, master. I Ching had no objections. In a flash he rushed out. A moment later, he rushed back, grabbed something and threw it. Coming. Lone Moon. Yu Hong. Chen Ge. This was too freaking fast, wasn't it? Was this an invitation? This was clearly kidnapping. What? Lady Xiantong is gone. Chen Ge jumped up from the ground. Wasn't she going into seclusion? Why did she suddenly disappear? We're not sure about that. Lone Moon shook his head. Chen Ji's expression darkened. But, who could kidnap Lady Xiantong from the palace? Invincible Heavenly Palace? We invited you here to ask if there's any way to find her. Xiantong was about to ascend, and her immortal qi was unstable. She could not be disturbed. If they were not careful, something big could really happen. Chen Ge glanced at Lone Moon, his expression anxious. He sighed and said, I understand what you mean. He already knew that Xiantong was the incarnation of the demonic seed and mental demon that he had separated from her. But, although Xiantong's soul was originally one with mine, she has already gone through multiple reincarnations and is already an independent soul. What's more, the demonic qi on her body has already disappeared. Apart from the last bit of connection I have with her, I have no other connection with her. What's more, this connection was not enough for him to locate her. Then what should we do? Qingyu was even more anxious now. She had raised Xiantong single-handedly, and was naturally more anxious than anyone else. Little sister Little Hong, Shining suddenly said. She tugged at Yu Hong and said, Go get Boss Lan here. Why do you want him to? Lone Moon stopped mid-sentence. He suddenly understood and his eyes widened. You mean that radish array? Pui, the heart-entrapping array. That's right. Chen Ge could pull Xiantong over with the heart-entrapping array. He could definitely do it again this time. Yu Hong, go quickly. Yu Hong also reacted. Her eyes lit up and she nodded repeatedly. Yes. She quickly ran out to get someone. Lone Moon thought for a moment, then asked Qingyu and Fengying to move Radish over just in case. He took out a few immortal meridians and planted them in the vegetable field in front of Xiantong Immortal Palace. He even dug a big hole. After everything was arranged, Lan Hua and Radish came over. Lan Hua was quite loyal. He only gave a brief explanation. Once he heard that the missing person was Shorty, he immediately started conjuring seals to set up an array. Then, everyone in the courtyard turned to look at a certain celestial emperor dressed in white robes. Chen Ge paused, then seemed to understand something. He raised his hand cooperatively and said, I understand. I have experience in this. With that said, he jumped into the hole that Lone Moon had just dug. Thinking that the missing person was his sweetheart, he asked worriedly, Do you need to cover my head with some soil to bury me? Lone Moon. Lan Hua. Shining. Everyone. Was this the side effect of being a radish? Cover soil? Why don't you just sprout? Chapter 235. Perhaps because of his previous experience, Lan Hua set up the array very quickly this time. In less than an hour he was done. Thick demonic qi surged out from his body, enveloping the entire vegetable field in an instant. The sky darkened. The originally lush and verdant vegetable field suddenly withered. The demonic chi spread out like vines, following the pattern of the array. Even Radish, who was playing with mud, stopped. It began to look around the vegetable field seriously, observing where Radish would appear. After a while, it suddenly pointed at a potato on its right and said, "Over there, little big sister, over there." Indeed, in the next moment, there was a poof and a huge potato appeared on the ground. In an instant, there was a huge pit in front of them. A familiar voice came from the pit. "Sect, Master?" Little Tong. Qingyu was delighted. She was the first to run over, and was about to dig her out. In the next moment, there was another poof, and she shrank back into the soil again. Her entire body seemed to be unstable, sometimes big and sometimes small. Qingyu was at a loss. Why is this happening? Little Shorty. Shen Ying's expression darkened. She stepped forward and squatted beside her. What exactly happened? Where are you? Xian Tong's body was still changing, as if there was something pulling her. Her voice was also intermittent. I'm not where. Pom. I've never seen it before. I can't use it, he's not an immortal. In the next moment, her voice disappeared completely. The huge potato on the ground did not appear again, leaving only a hole. The demonic chi surrounding it also dissipated. What's going on? Lone Moon looked at the hole in the ground, then turned to look at the person in the center of the array. Lan Hua, this is... Lan Hua. Poof! Lan Hua suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was as white as snow, as if he was seriously injured. Holy shit! What's wrong with you? Lone Moon was shocked. Everyone was also shocked. Lan Hua did not answer. He clutched his chest with one hand, looking even worse. I Ching stepped forward and checked his pulse. After a while he frowned. It's the array's backlash. How is this possible? Lone Moon's eyes widened. This was not the first time Lan Hua used this array. The last time, he pulled 7 or 8 people in at once, but nothing happened. Why couldn't he do it this time? Someone cast a spell on Xian Tong. Not only her body, but also her soul. Lan Hua took a deep breath and said in a low voice, that person's aura is very strange. It doesn't look like immortal chi or devil chi. If he's not an immortal or a devil, could he be a god? No. Lan Hua shook his head with certainty. It's definitely not the god race. That aura, I can't describe it, but I only touched it a little before I suffered a backlash. Lone Moon's expression darkened. Xian Tong was such an unlucky child. Why was it always her? The first few times he had a target. This time, he didn't even know who it was. However, what was certain was that someone had taken her away by force. You're injured. Hurry up and regulate your breathing. I Ching reminded. Only then did Lan Hua sit down cross-legged and begin to regulate his breathing. However, the demonic chi on his body was extremely unstable, fluctuating between thick and thin. Lone Moon waved his hand and gestured for everyone to leave. At the same time, he pulled Chen Gu out of the hole. Then he instructed Yu Hong. Go to the heavenly gate and see if Little Black has arrived. He should be on his way here. Lan Hua is a demon. We can't help with his injuries. Yes. The few of them returned to Shen Ying's back hall. They discussed but still couldn't understand. What was Xian Tong trying to tell them? Shening. Lone Moon had no choice. He nudged the person who hadn't spoken since they returned to the room. Who do you think caught Shorty? And what's the aura that Lan Hua was talking about? I don't know. Shening shook her head. After thinking for a while, she added, but what Boss Lan said should be the same as this flower. As she spoke, she suddenly took out a vase from under the table and placed it on the table with a thud. Everyone. Wasn't this the vase of flowers on Xian Tong's windowsill? When exactly did you move it back? Why didn't anyone notice it? What's wrong with this flower? Lone Moon leaned closer and was about to activate his immortal chi to examine it. Flower. Radish suddenly jumped out like an engine that had found a keyword. It jumped onto the table excitedly and stared at the vase. Wild flowers can go to hell. Little big sister is mine. As it spoke, it raised its leaf and slammed it towards the vase. Radish. Lone Moon was shocked. This little bastard. He hurriedly reached out to stop it, but was a step too late. Radish's leaf was already slamming towards the flower bud in the vase. There was still immortal chi on the leaf. Just as it was about to hit the fragile red flower bud, a gray chi flow suddenly flowed out of the flower bud. Not only did it disperse the immortal chi on the leaf, it also directly bounced Radish away. With a smack, Radish was like a small cannonball. It was directly bounced against the wall, and was instantly smacked into a dried radish. There was even a radish-shaped dent in the wall. Radish, and everyone in the room was shocked. They hurriedly ran over. Lone Moon used an earth elemental spell to dig it out of the wall. Its originally snow-white body instantly turned purple, as if it had been dyed. The entire radish seemed to have been knocked into a daze. It looked at Lone Moon blankly, and only then did it realize that it was in pain. With a loud wail, it turned around and rushed into Shen Ying's arms. Wah! Little Missy, it bullied me. It hurts. It hurts so much, its head full of green leaves looked like it was raining, water splashing out. Shen Ying frowned and distastefully pulled away a little. It's so ugly. She casually threw it to roasted chicken gal beside her. Wah! Radish hugged Qingyu tightly and cried even more sadly. Ever since it met Shen Ying, Radish really had not suffered such grievances. It was a vegetation spirit. Its soul was originally pure, and it had just transformed not long ago. Although there was gender discrimination, most of the people in the sect were female. In addition, it had a sweet mouth. The disciples in the sect all doted on it. Besides Lone Moon and the rest, it was not an exaggeration to say that everyone else was obedient to it. This was the first time it was beaten to this extent. Its entire body was purple. What's more, the other party was a flower without sentience. It was no wonder that Radish was crying so hard. All right, Radish, be good. Qingyu comforted gently for a long time before stopping its tears. Shen Ying pointed to the vase on the table. Did you see it? The faces of the people in the room darkened, and they nodded. Stepping forward to take a closer look at the flower, they realized that the flower had suddenly withered. At a speed visible to the naked eye, it turned yellow, as if it was corroded by demonic qi. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.